talking to my newest friend. What's your name?
Callum.
Callum. Say hi to my friends on YouTube. Callum, you seem like a very intelligent fellow, and your questions are fantastic. Now, I want to ask you something about that theory of Saturn and Mercury and Venus and Mars and so on. When we look at them in the night, we see these super bright lights twinkling back at us, equivalent in light and brightness to suns. That are suns out there, right? So I'll ask you this: that if the sun is beaming its light onto those dusty, rocky, gassy giants, and those giants in themselves, those gassy giants, are receiving so much light that they can reflect back millions and millions of miles, just a reflection that is identically bright as stuff, and then we're told, oh no, the reason for this is simply the distance between the identically bright as stuff, and then we're told, oh no, the reason for this is simply the distance between the two, the star and the planet. Then I'd say that's a theory you and I cannot verify. When you and I test things with our own experience, i.e. with our eyes or with a camera, like a high zoom camera, what we see is that they look identical to the other stars, perhaps brighter, perhaps bigger, but not different.
I can see what you're coming from there, but okay. I again go back to the whole distance point of view.
Yeah.
It's the sun is the energy pool of our light.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the source comes from.
Okay.
So obviously if that hits the planet, that's millions of light years away, isn't it?
Where, the sun?
The sun, yeah.
Do you know how far it is away?
To be honest, I don't really know how far away
Okay.
it is.
Well, we're told,
is.
Okay, let me just, so you can go away on this one. It's 93 million miles away, okay. And the sunlight takes 8 minutes to get to us, according to mainstream science. Actually, Kepler said it was 27 million miles away, and we've once upon a time were 3 million miles away and 103 million miles away. So we don't really know how to measure the distance to the sun, and so we're having to take scientists sort of to say, yes, we trust your brain and your mathematical formula to tell us these answers. Well, we're just trying to go back to what is observable. I no longer believe in the virgin birth that I was brought up with, and I no longer believe in light years and things like that because I can't test them and see them for myself. So I tell people to think about this. Like, if you can zoom into a crater on the moon with your telescope or your camera, which is 250,000 miles away, but Tim Peake can't zoom in to the Grand Canyon from just 250 miles away in the ISS, I've got to ask you, something's wrong with that equation, right? But you wanted to ask me about water, and I'm very interested to hear your question about the water. It was Callum, was it?
Yeah, Callum. Yeah.
Callum, I'm so glad I remember your name.
So you're saying, obviously, I can see what you're saying. Water doesn't sit on a spherical object, right?
It always, like if you had a deep end of a pool and a shallow end of a swimming pool, the water's surface is going to take no account of that. You could drop some rocks into the bottom of the pool, the level, always, once it's still super level.
I get that.
Okay.
But the thing is if you go for the object of the core of the Earth, right, that's generating our gravity because of the mass of the planet.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So the whole. Sorry, I get a bit.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Callum. I don't want to make you feel bad, but you're doing fantastically well, and I want to hear what you think.
No, that's good.
Yeah, so I know that it's creating. Absolutely. I mean, look, I'm 50, right? So for 47 years, because it's only 3 years since I started questioning this stuff for real, I also took exactly that same thought pattern, that if you've got a center mass that is drawing everything to it, there's no up or down, everything is sort of equally up and equally down. So water would conform to that ball or that thing.
It's like the way the moon works, right? Because the moon's got its own gravity of sorts, right? It's not a lot for us to sit, but we bounce about with it, don't we?
Yeah.
Right? But it pulls our water.
Okay.
It's not tied.
Okay. So
if it's pulling the water away and stuff like that, it just shows how the gravity works with water, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that thing about the theory of that it's the moon pulling on our oceans falls apart when you realize that there's certain seas that are not being affected. They do not have tidal actions. In fact, the whole Swedish archipelago has no tidal action at all. So there are questions, and it seems that freshwater bodies of water don't have tides. No matter how large the Great Lakes of Michigan, they don't have tides. They have pressure systems that cause a movement in the air, but they're not affected by the coming and going of the moon. So that theory of the moon causing our tides has to be reviewed as well, I'm afraid. I wanted to go back to the thing about water is that when what we're told to do is to suspend belief, because we're told that a water droplet is our evidence that water can conform or become round. But when we scale up any sort of body of water, it always takes a level when it's settled. And that level is actually horizontal with the local ocean. So if I had to take a bottle of water and twist it like this in front of the beach, you would see the water continue to find its own level, but horizontal with the horizon in front of me. So all bodies of water, lakes and so on, and streams and swimming pools in the world, they're all at the same level. So I ask people to think about the Suez Canal, which is 160 kilometers in length and provably level end to end. It's a flat body of water. They don't need any locks. If the water was higher at one point, they would have to put a lock in the middle or a lock some point to stop the water just rushing through and to allow ships to kind of be able to swim upstream, as it were, to go against that current. So there isn't a current running through there. It's a level body of water. So I would offer you, because you're obviously a very thoughtful guy, to think, well, if you had 10 or 20 of those same things, it's not hard to say that I could get to it from England to America on 10 or 12 Suez canals back to back. So for me to extend to you that my theory that the Earth has to be flat because water is, as far as I can tell, always flat, and as far as I can measure, always flat, because the sort of thing that we used to say, the ship's going over the curve, or when I'm at a plane, I can see curve and all that sort of thing. Well, when we come back to, okay, so measure that curve, look at the curvature formula, which is 8 inches in the mile squared, apparently, for the first 1,000 miles. So look at that and say, well, then why am I still seeing the beaches of France from England? That should be under 100 feet of curvature. That's according to the maths that we're given. And we've never been taught the maths in school. I was never taught the curvature formula. Most engineers wouldn't know what I was talking about when I say, well, what is the curvature? But they say, well, because the Earth is so big, it just seems flat, and eventually it will curve. Well, I'm saying, okay, so what is that eventually? Well, it starts curving immediately. If you're on the top of a ball and relativity says you're always at the top of the ball and your friends are beneath you, which is a crazy thing in itself if you think about that, because if I'm on the top, that means you're on the bottom, but you'd argue with me that you're on the top and I'm on the bottom. So that can't actually work in reality. If you're playing a computer game where as you move left and right, the ball sort of rolls underneath your feet and you always stay on the top of that ball, okay, that works if you're the only person and the world is rolling around for you, right? Well, in reality, everybody else is claiming they're on the top of the ball and ships are going down from them. And if a ship is going down from me, it must be coming from above you. If you're at the port that's waiting to receive that ship, that's common sense. But we're talking, no, it doesn't work like that, and so on. Well, go back to measuring water curving, and you won't find that surface other than in a tiny droplet of water or a little bit of surface tension or some convexity or something like that. So that, Callum, is my primary thing. I don't try and propone exactly how the world must work, because it's a fantastic conversation, and I'm having wonderful debates and discussions with people who already accept that, obviously water has to be flat. So let's work on that basis. Let's accept that we don't know what the edges are, the extremes are, how it all works, how it feeds itself, how oxygenated it is, or how the waters are replenished, or these sorts of things, or how we don't fall off some edge, or if there is indeed an edge to be found, or what the governments know that they're not telling us. These are things that we would love to know, but can't know. What we can know is water is level, and the science that proves, or the science that sought to prove that the Earth is spinning, was buried from us 100 years ago.
So you say that obviously you go with anything you believe has to be proven to you, yeah?
I don't want to believe anything anymore. So the knowing part is that water is level, because I got you 100 miles and there's still level. So to say 1,000 miles, no problem.
So you would know that the world is flat?
I would know that the observable world, the world that you and I inhabit, is a flat world. I go further, and this is my belief now, to say, just so you've heard me say what I believe, because I know water is flat, but I also believe that this is actually an electromagnetic torus field, that our Earth is actually some sort of electromagnetic egg, and we're on the sort of central plane of that, and we can move around in sort of 3D to a certain height and a certain depth. In fact, we've only ever been 8 miles down. That's the deepest we've ever drilled. How high we've been is worth speculating. Some say 1,000 miles, some say 100 miles. I don't really know. I don't think very high. That's the limit. And I think if your telescope is powerful enough to see 1 million miles away, or the craters on the moon, you should be able to take it on a clear day and sort of resolve the windows or the people in a building 20 miles away. But I bet you can't. it just doesn't have that kind of reach. But because the roof above us, the sky above us, is actually so much closer than we imagine, we're told that our telescopes are supremely powerful. But yes, the truth is that if you've ever tried to kind of pick up your mates, 2 miles away from a hill or whatever, you don't have a great job of resolving them. That's just a few miles away, let alone thousands of miles away or millions. No, I'll give you that. But the guys are doing these sorts of tests on YouTube. They're taking the most powerful cameras known to man, the P900, the P1000, and they're taking these and zooming in on stop street signs just a mile or two down the road, and they cannot resolve them clearly, just a few miles down the road.
Josh, that's probably because they're set for a further distance.
That may well be. I mean,
if they're set for a further distance, they're not going to focus on something that's a little bit closer. Okay. So if you're trying to focus on a stop sign that's like a mile away or 2 miles away, but then you try to focus on something like on the moon, I think you said that's 250,000 miles away.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's going to be set for focus between that area.
No, I mean, if you take a camera, if you think about it, a camera is like if I pulled out a P1000 now, right, and I wanted to take a photograph of you, the camera would be comfortable doing that. And then if I wanted to extend it to its fullest zoom, the camera would be comfortable, say, resolving an aeroplane at a mile and a half away. But once it's further than that, I'm starting to struggle to resolve those things. And I don't have one of these cameras. I'm going on the basis of what others. There's a couple of great YouTubers, Enslaved by No Media, a few others whose names escape me now, who've done a lot of experiments with their cameras and tried to answer this question, what is my range truly? And if we're saying, because we say that the Earth cannot, the Earth is the center of everything, and that the sun and the moon are the lights, electrical lights that are designed to keep the system working, keep it hot, keep it cool, do all those sort of things that it needs to do. But they're local, they're within, they're within the space above us. They're 10 miles, 20 miles, 50 miles up. I don't really know. They may even simply be projections that we resolve and so on. But the idea that they're millions of miles away and cameras, or 250,000, and that cameras can resolve this stuff at that distance, as I said to you earlier on, if they could do that, then Tim Peake, 250 miles, would be able to grab a camera and zoom in on the London Marathon and say, I can see people running at 250 miles away, or I can, I can see ships coming up the Thames, or I can see planes, and as this image suggests here, I can actually go, the ICS goes under the ball Earth every day, or 10 times a day, or whatever, so I could actually take a photograph from, say, of South America with planes basically flying on the side of a ball, or actually underneath it, as they were in Australia. That's never ever going to happen. I would offer to you that light is the distance light travels is very limited. Our best lighthouses are 50, 60 miles in range is a fantastic sighting. If you can see coast and from 50 to 60 miles, firstly, you shouldn't be able to see that amount of light, or that lighthouse should be below the curve of the water. We worked that out. But secondly, we know now that the range of light that we can detect is actually very limited. So when they go up into higher orbit, they're only able to take a photo of a few hundred miles around, and the higher you go, the less the land masses resolve and so on, which is why they fudged all the NASA images of Earth. They admit online that they're actually creating these through CGI and artistry rather than a single photo snap. I'm going to offer you a documentary that's on YouTube. It's called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, Callum. It's by Bart Sibrel. I watched this documentary 3.5 years ago, and it changed my paradigm because I believed in the moon landings. But once you see this footage, you realize that actually there's a lot of trickery that's going on, and they actually some of these showreels show that. I don't know how and why they slipped out, and then NASA admit openly, an astronaut called Don Petty admits that they don't have the technology. They lost the technology to go to the moon. That's why they haven't been back. That's what he says it's on camera saying that. So the moon landings are fake. You could argue that, and I used to argue that too. Like, what's the point? But they also argue that, tell us they fire a laser up to the moon and a mirror bounces that back. And I used to believe that too. And then other people say, when I say, now we do laser tests over 40 miles, right? Just to prove that one beach is level with the other beach at 40 miles away. And then people come and say, you don't have lasers powerful enough. And yet we can shoot a laser 250,000 miles away and have the return come back another 250,000 miles away just off a reflection. but I can't shoot a laser 40 miles and people believe I've got a true beat on that. See, people are willing to kind of believe one thing and not the other. And as I've said to you, is that if we can resolve craters on the moon with our 200-pound camera or a telescope, but they can't resolve the Grand Canyon from 250 miles away, 1,000 times less distance, with 1,000 million times more budget, I'd say they're not doing it because people say, oh, why should they need to do that? Why would they need to prove to you that they're spinning underneath it? Well, I say, well, because there's so much evidence that they've lied to us, that the spacewalks are done in a swimming pool, that the zero gravity is an effect of harnesses. We see there's plenty of YouTubers who've picked out the times when the harnesses are come through on the glitches on the blue screen stuff that they use. They use a vomit comet plane to create a zero-G environment for the odd 30 or 60-second clip where they play like clowns with a bit of water, or they play like clowns with some other thing. So
you've got planes and stuff like that. You can get the zero gravity experience yourself, can't you? You can go up and actually be around,
correct,
sort of floating about. So you will also surely you'd be able to observe outside the plane window, like the curvature of the Earth.
Yeah, I mean, according to
high as well.
Yeah, so as far as we can tell, we've sent hot air weather balloons up to 20 miles, and we can't find any curvature unless you use a fisheye lens, and that'll give you curvature, like the Felix Baumgartner jump. The outside cameras were fisheye lenses, but the inner camera that they had inside his cupola, that was a regular lens, and when he jumps out, you see the most perfectly flat horizon, and that's as high as humans have been. That's why they made such a big fuss about that, because astronauts are not really out in outer space, which is why no astronaut spacesuit with a human in has ever been tested in a vacuum chamber on Earth. The one time they tried it, the guy nearly died. They've never done it again. There is no evidence that they could ever do that. The lunar lander, there's no evidence that they ever had control over that. They had like a chassis that Neil Armstrong had to eject from. That's the best footage they have. He couldn't control it. And they say, oh, don't worry, because there's lower gravity on the moon, it'll work fine. Don't worry that it didn't work here on Earth. And that's only the chassis, let alone the whole thing. When we look at HD photos of those, or in high-res photos of those moon landing jewels, they look like things that were made by a high school team. They're tinfoil, fishing poles, stuff like that, gaffer tape. It's an absolute hoax. We have been lied to and conned absolutely by NASA. So once the glasses come off and you start to see, oh, the moon landings didn't, that's not right. I mean, you see them come back from the moon, right? Neil Armstrong, the first step for man, the greatest leap for mankind and all that. The next day or a few days later, he touches back to Earth and the three of them have an interview with the world's press and they look as guilty as sin. They are shivery, shaky, dodgy, their answers aren't coherent. You know, you feel the passion in my voice? Can you imagine if I'd just been to the moon, how passionate I'd be?
But they were put in quarantine after they came back from the moon for a good number of days. So that could have gotten to them. They could have been.
These are the heroes of humankind. You know, Buzz Aldrin became an alcoholic and 3 years ago admitted they never went. There's video footage of him saying, yeah, I know we never went. He's talking to an 8-year-old child or 10-year-old child in a school thing. That's online, it's on video, you can go and find that. You know, actually one of the last speech that Neil Armstrong gave before he died, he said, to these students, he said, we have still to uncover one of truth's greatest secrets. I may be getting that wrong, but he basically admitted that there was big truths still to be found.
What about Elon Musk?
He's a charlatan, and he's a creation to, you know that movie Iron Man, isn't Iron Man, where there's like a very rich inventor who saves the world essentially. You know what I mean? He's like a tortured guy. Well, this is exactly what Elon Musk is for the Hollywood Netflix watching masses, is that they've got this genius who's got an unlimited amount of money, who's coming up with these fantastic ideas. They've associated his name with Tesla, who apparently was a giant of our science world, but we've never really learnt about him coming up.
Rockets and the self-landing.
Well, as a kid growing up, I watched them design the Harrier jump jet. All right, the Harrier jump jet is an aircraft that took them a long time to design, to get that thing to work. Right now, I never once saw any effort, any science that said we were ever going to get a rocket that could return itself on a single bead of fire, return itself like that to the ground, other than when I was a kid watching comics. There is no way our science has got to a point where we can reverse thrust a rocket back onto the ground. I'm afraid that is the brainwashing that we're under. There's no way that is done. It's all being staged, and it's all CGI, and they always have like glitches that stop you seeing, oh, we've cut from this camera to that. You'll never see a single bit of footage with a rocket going all the way into outer space. Now we're out into the stratosphere or whatever. We're going to go over to a CGI rendition of what's about to happen, and people go, oh, wow, this is Elon Musk. This is awesome, man. This is humanity at its best. Richard Branson's Virgin and his going to space, what happened to that? If going to space was so easy, we could do it in 50 years ago with a little Casio calculator, why can't Richard Branson do it today? I know, my brother. You know why? Because we cannot, and they're just kicking the can down the road. And Elon Musk is just, and his thing is just going to be the new vehicle when NASA is, because NASA is becoming a redundant thing. So what the X generation, what the Generation X are called, they need something like the Elon Musk character to take them forward and to continue perpetuating this lie. No, Elon Musk is an actor. He's been created. I was brought up in South Africa, and if his family was so wealthy, I would have known about who they were. The white South African community is not that big, and we knew who the rich people were. Most of them were Jews. Most of them were Jews, as far as I know. But that Musk name never came up once. Never. So for him to have been created now is, for me, just like another CIA plant. He's just there to kind of do the bidding of keeping the status quo intact, and that's it. So there's lots to think about, my friend, and I've really enjoyed the conversation. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Trinity 4. I'll give you my card if you ever hit me up. I won't forget this encounter. And yeah, you're on my live channel. I don't know how many folks are watching right now, but 10. So that's cool. Here's a card. I only got 2 left, so I'll have to give you one of them.
Alright, well, it was nice talking to you.
Yeah.
Alright.
Go well, my friend. Yeah, have a great life.
Yeah.
How about that? Hey.
Hey, you're all kitted up.
Yeah. I'm all rope and rolling. And it's Sean in action. Hey, brother. Morning all.
Okay.
Yeah. Morning all. Roll up. Turns up the earth is flat. There's no proof we live on a spinning ball, my friends. There is no proof that we live on a spinning ball. The dynamics and physics of water suggest that water will always find its level when it rests. Water level is so called because it always finds. Sea level is so it always finds a level. Oceans will always find, which means it is flat from Europe to America to Africa to Asia to Antarctica, which might well simply be a ring around the outside containing the water of your wonderful world. My friends and I have come here today to let you know that you are the center of creation, that this world is designed by and for you. Your government, your educators, and your religious orders have stolen you from the top of the pyramid. You are the capstone of the pyramid, but your sovereignty has been stolen by this Darwinian lie. This Darwinian lie that says you are but a monkey, evolved slightly. I say that this is poppycock, my friends. This is absolute poppycock. There is no way you are descended from monkeys. Evolution is a complete lie. You are the pinnacle of creation. You are divine, and this earth was created for you to have a divine encounter with yourself. Not with the warehouse, Miss Selfridge, not with Topshop, not to have your time and your energy stolen by the Metro Bank, not to have your life given away to the brain drain called the television. and your educators who have intentionally stolen the truth about our history, about who we are and what we are in this place. And I ask you, Swindon, please go home today and look into the flat earth. Look into the idea that dinosaurs are a hoax designed to make you think that you are a monkey evolved from slime, evolved from goo, fish, rabbit, monkey, black man in Africa, white man in Europe. That is absolute rubbish. It's impossible for a monkey to become a human. There is no evidence of this. It is impossible for water to conform to the outside of a moving shape. The idea, my dear, that you live on a spinning ball and that you are worthless is nonsense. You are absolutely important. You are the center of creation. It's all about love. You hear that? Shut up. They don't like it all. How about that?
Well, Dave, as always.
Thank you, Harry, as always.
You pick up people's ears and attention.
Yes. Well, friends, I'm here to tell you that the Earth is provably not a spinning ball. All of that science has been hidden from you. And I'm here to tell you that your government is responsible for that. Your government is responsible for poisoning your children, poisoning their minds with the TV, poisoning their minds with lying science, and poisoning your body with McDonald's and Coca-Cola and aspartame. Did you know that cannabis has made you think it's bad for you? Cannabis cures cancer, but your government would rather give you chemotherapy to kill you. I'm here to tell you, my friends, that it's a beautiful world we live on, but one that has been divided and divided and divided by religion, by rulers, by education that is misplaced, and by an idea that you're simply a slightly evolved monkey, an ape. This is not true. The creation is for you, bro. You are the center of creation. You can laugh all you like, but you are the center, and your government has made you dumb. They have made you so dumb. Humanity has never been dumber. And they laugh at the idea that they might be special because they love their subservience. They love giving away their life energy in taxes after taxes after taxes. And if you don't follow every rule they've written down, they will tax you again. Penalty notice here, penalty charge there. License for this, license to have a child. I'm telling you, my 18-month-old child does not have a birth certificate. Why? Because I am not giving my child over to this corrupt government. Stop voting in corrupt politicians and a corrupt system. There is no left-right politics. They're playing you off against each other, the red versus the blue team. Wake up, people. Swindon, I'm here, and my friends are here to tell you that the entire edifice of your existence has been created by lying, deceiving, Freemasonic deceivers and evildoers. You've had the truth about your place on top of the pyramid. The capstone of this pyramid is you. But you've given it away, and you're grinning as you continue to give it away. I'm asking you to stop just for a few hours this weekend, switch off the television, and start looking at some of these documentaries we're pointing out. 200 proofs we've got that Earth cannot be a spinning ball. Hundreds of proofs of evidence that you cannot be descendant of monkeys. And thousands of proofs that your government is continually lying to you and continually finding ways to steal your life. Keep you sick from cradle to grave. That's what the NHS is really about. Keep you paying, keep you sick, and shorten your life by 50%. That's what they want. Work, 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 die. You're not here to do that. You're here to be a creator. You're here to be a beautiful soul. You're here to be an expression of the loving, divine essence of which we are all part. I'm asking you now to think about your place in this world, to review who and what you are, because if your light can shine bright, you will brighten your house, you will brighten your neighborhood, and together we will brighten this entire beautiful plane that we call Earth. Earth is an anagram for heart. It's all about love. And your government, your religion, and your controllers would have you hate your brother. They would have you hate your sister. They would have you choose sides and mess with your mind and mess with your sexuality and mess with your sense of what and who you truly are, which is why we have never had more mental health problems. The word government means to control the mind. If you got mind problems, it's because your government wants you to have those mind problems.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my dear. And this is my YouTube channel. Yeah, I'll get one for you now. Oh, actually, I've got one in here. There you go, my dear. This will resonate with you absolutely. My sweetheart, you are a princess. You are the top of the pyramid. I wish you a happy life. I wish you all a happy life. It's all coming here to you today with love. This is all about love. This is all about sharing with humanity the fact that we are, religion aside, politics aside, wealth and borders aside, we are one human race. We were designed to come together and to fight against, stand against the separation, division, and enmity that so traduces the human trajectory. My friends in Swindon, I come to you today with love. My name is Dave. My YouTube channel is Trinity4. I have nothing to hide. I'm a military veteran. I have stood for my country. Why? Because I love humanity. I'm here because I love humanity. Your government hates humanity. I don't know who and what they really are, but they do not represent you. The earth, my friends, has to be flat because water is always level. I don't know beyond that, but I know it's about love, and I know the earth is flat. So, Swindon, please go home. Turn off the Netflix just for 2 hours tonight and go and do some fresh research. Turn off the BBC. That's rubbish. The BBC is a propagandist operation run by a director general. Why do you say that in German? A general, the general.
It is round.
Yes, it's round like a pizza. Round like a pizza.
It's round like a ball. It's spinning. You're not off your end.
Yeah.
What?
Have you got any scientific
You're
proof?
smoking.
Have you got any scientific proof that it's spinning?
Elliot, how can you sail around the world then? Exactly, you can't answer that.
Well, you don't have time for that. But not everybody's ready for this information. My friends, it comes to you with love. The earth is provably flat and it does not spin. Water would fall off a ball. Humans would fall off a ball. It just doesn't work in reality. Disneyland and NASA are collaborating to ensure that your mind thinks that humans can walk on the underside of a spinning ball. And gravity is a theory, my friend. It's a belief system, like a religion. You know the virgin birth? Same thing. Cheers, bro. Earth is flat. There's nothing you can do about that. Water is level, sea level, ocean level. When does it curve? Oh, when it's too big for me to see. That's called magic. The magic of gravity, brought to you by Disneyland and Jack Parsons of JPL and NASA fame.
Gravity is sufficient for everybody else.
Yes. Gravity is a theory like theology is a religion. Gravity only works as density and buoyancy. It does not make water stick to the underside of something once it gets too big. Your mind has been altered We have all been brainwashed and indoctrinated by a system of education that is corrupted at its very heart. You are the center of creation. You are the top of the capstone, the top of the pyramid. You are indeed the Most High's creation. And this is your creation to enjoy, not to give away in taxes and to be poisoned and to be held down. Good morning, sir. Nice to see you. I am a human being. We can talk to each other. It's a really nice experience. Good morning, sir. Good morning, madam. Earth is flat. I know it's something you want to laugh at, but the truth is that water is always level. Water does not conform to a ball. You don't play your football on a ball. You play your football on a flat pitch, people. Wake up! Can you imagine running underneath your football? Don't be ridiculous. You have to have that on a flat surface. A basketball court is flat. Can you imagine trying to play basketball on a ball? Don't be stupid. The government is poisoning your mind using television and other means. We are asking you to clean up your act, start drinking distilled water, go for raw food as often as possible, do some sun gazing, some barefoot walking on the earth, take good care of your health. The temple of God is right up here. You are the creator. You are the creator's creation. I hope you like that. I'm getting some shakings of the heads. It's surprising. Good morning, sir. Turns out the earth is flat, just like the water in the oceans. That's cool.
You can have a breather.
Yeah, I might.
Change my batteries.
Cool. Hey, I should just say a few hellos before I.
Yeah.
And there's my good man Harry G.
You're making me run out of battery, Dave.
I have to tell you, hey, I had this feeling last night, or maybe it was this morning. I thought to myself, shit, I love this man because he's such a good heart. He's just such a good soul, and we've all got our own flaws and idiosyncrasies and interesting things, but I actually love Harry. So if I can say that out, excuse my language, I'll say that right here. I don't care. You're a good man, Harry.
I love you back.
Thank you, man.
One of the best I've met, man.
Thank you.
Walk your talk.
Yeah. Well, you do too. More than. Just still, it removes the minerals. No, Joe, my friend. No. That's the minerals are inorganic minerals. You need to find out this. The inorganic minerals are what cause the problem. If your body doesn't deal with inorganics, it lets the plants do the inorganics, and then they turn it into organics. Hey, West Midlands. Hey, bro. Johnny Carr. Is that Johnny Carr? My eyesight's not so if I get that wrong. So. And SO 537 high or whatever 537. Who else is here? Pink Floyd. Drew, hey Drew. Smash the thumb. Yeah. All in all, it's just another brick in the wall. Don't be another brick in the wall, my friends. The truth is your government wants you dumb. The government wants you to stay in the box. We're encouraging you to think outside of the box for the first time in your entire life. I'm a 50-year-old man, and only 3 years ago, I was so deeply inside the box, I would never have come out to share this love with you. Now I can tell you that the earth cannot be a spinning ball. It has to be flat, and that you have to be the center of all creation. You are the reason for everything. You are the most important light, the most important being, and until you learn to know yourself, to truly know yourself, you are going to be drawn out by the football, drawn out by the cookery, drawn out by the pornography, drawn out by the politics and all the other bullshit that they're putting in your mind. Clean out that smut. Take back your position at the top of the pyramid. You are divine. You are divine essence of the Creator, and I know this now because why? The earth is flat, and we're at the center of all of that. There are no aliens. There are no other planets. There are no asteroids. There are no dinosaurs and billions of years. There is only now. There is only this moment, And you are living it in somebody else's mind control system. That's why you're here buying their clothing, buying their junk food, buying their trinketry, wasting your life energy, earning money at extortionate rates of taxes, extortionate taxes, and yet you still come out and buy clothing with another load of taxes vetted on top of them. Your government is robbing you of who and what you are. Your divine light is being traduced and subjected to never-ending series of control from mind, body, and soul. I only learned this a few years ago, and I have transformed my life. I have transformed my life, and I'm here offering you that same opportunity. No religion. Religion is mind control. Yeah? The root of the word religion has liga in it. Ligature. They want to bind you to their religion. And let me tell you, scientism, gravity, relativity, and special relativity, this is a religion. This is a religion. And I'm asking you to step away from all the religious control, the indoctrination of your mind. That you, only you, are the top of the pyramid. Only you. No government. You can turn around.
I'm not very good at this shit.
You celebrity, mate? No. No. But I have a YouTube channel called Trinity 4, bro. Trinity 4.
I'm going to be on YouTube now.
Yeah, you're live. I've only got 20 people. He's got about 200 watching his, so say hello. She's on. Yes, madam. Yes, we are. Well,
How can you see that when there's a moon and a sun and a...
well, we can explain those things. I used to see these things. I'm 50, right?
Stephen Hawking's existed.
Yeah.
I say it all the time. Everyone around the globe knows the earth is flat.
We've heard that joke 100 times, but thanks anyway.
101 times now.
Cheers, bro. Cheers, man.
See ya.
Cheers. Hey, man.
Are you doing attention-seeking nut jobs?
No. But can I ask you what you think about the idea that water can't conform to? Now, I'm 50, right? So at 47, I used to believe what everyone else does, that water conforms to the outside of a spinning ball because of a thing called gravity. Now I realize that gravity is a theory, and that water is always finding its own level, and that NASA has been providing us with images that are not photos; they're just cartoons or paintings.
Oh, so you're campaigning against NASA then?
I'm not campaigning against NASA. I'm trying to get people to realize that the entire edifice of control around them, government, education, banking system, medical system, all of these things are controlled, and they're not designed in our best interest. They're designed in some other entity's best interest. So we're saying that the whole lot is wrong and has completely misplaced or misrepresented our history and our truth about who we are and what we are.
What are we then?
Well, we know we're here as human beings. That we can absolutely say that. I don't want to get too deeply into the...
Evolved from apes.
You think that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I used to think that too, but that's a belief. I don't believe that because I can't prove it. You can't prove. There is a missing link. Everybody knows that. Okay. So there's no speciation. There's no half man, half ape. You know, so if evolution was true, we should be finding some apes still sort of on that process of becoming humans, and we should be finding bones of those half humans. No, turns out the critically thinking now.
You know where these apes are because they actually, at some point in history and time, they would have lived alongside us, but we destroyed them.
Okay. So I used to believe those theories too.
Our
Yeah.
inhabitation of
Okay.
mass destruction in moving around the planet, we destroyed them.
What's your name?
Why?
I just can be friendly. My name's Dave.
Neil.
Neil. I used to say those same things, by the way. But the truth is, I'm trying now to stick with things that only we can test and prove for ourselves, rather than like in the religions where they say, "Oh, the virgin birth" and stuff like that. I'm like, no. We know that in science, in reality, no virgin gives babies.
I think we've had this conversation before somewhere.
Maybe it was in a different reality, but
No.
I don't remember meeting you, Neil. But lovely to meet you. And do you want to take a flyer, or you're not
I'll have
yet?
a little read.
Please do. No, on this flyer we've got some photos that beg a belief. Oh, me too, couldn't give me. So that's fine. It took me a while to kick that away. He's very friendly.
I've heard that before.
But yeah, and there's a formula for the curvature of the Earth. Yeah, I'm good, brother. How are you, man? Good. Yeah, nice to see you. Hey.
Early start this morning.
Yeah. We thought we'd crack on, and it's nippy out here, isn't it? Oh, Jason's got a bit of a crowd going now. I need to step in, see how I can help. Good morning, friends. Is there anybody who has a question for me? I'm here telling you today that the Earth cannot be a spinning ball. The science that proves that Earth isn't moving has been hidden from you, and we know that the dynamics of water is that it will always find its own level. I know this is hard for you to accept, son, but I'm 50 years old. In the age of 47, I would have done the same thing as you. Now I know that that's absolute rubbish. If you got any scientific proof that water will conform to the outside of a moving shape, bring it. But I'll tell you this, if I brought you a water bottle and turned it like this, whenever it rests, the water will find its own level, and that level will be horizontal with every other body of water that's still on Earth. There is a phrase you may have heard, it's called sea level. You may have also heard it as water level. And the reason we say this is because water always levels. Construction uses water for leveling in its buildings. So I offer you this phrase, ocean level. Why not have an ocean level? The Suez Canal is 100 miles long, and between two oceans there's no drop. It's level from one ocean to the other. So at what point does curvature come into your maths or into your mind? I tell you when Disney told you at the age of 5 that you could live on a spinning ball. They also told you that Santa would come down the chimney and bring you gifts if you were a good child.
Nobody has ever fallen off the cliff.
No, but no human has ever been on the underside of the ball. No human has ever flown or traveled on the underside of our ball. I don't know. Do you know there's an edge? What makes you think that?
The flat road, you get to an edge. If I go from here to Nigeria, I'll get to an edge, right?
Uh-huh.
But where's the end of this? This flatness, where's the end?
I'm not offering you the end, sir. I don't know that. I know that water. There is a whole lot we know, but I admit that. But I won't say that. Oh, even though I can't see water ever conforming to the ball, or any animal or human walking underneath something without falling off, you're willing to believe that? That, sir, is a religion. I'm telling you, I don't know what's at the edge, but you're telling me that on time and space, a ball, if it gets big enough, will start to float. Let me tell you that if you think that rocks can float in the sky just because they're so big and because they're on time and space, then you are still living in dreamland, Disneyland, a creation of Hollywood. If you watch this documentary, sir, on YouTube called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon, you will see footage of the moon story that beggars belief. So I'm offering you, friends, the idea that water has to be level, and the idea that NASA is created to design fakery that keeps you in this mind control system that you are but a tiny, insignificant insect on a massive spinning ball that could be hit out of the sky by asteroids at any minute. I'm telling you that, poppycock, the truth is that you are the top of the pyramid. You are the top of the system, but your government has been put in place to keep you dumb, to hold you back, to stop you from reaching your full and true potential. Life and a happy day. I've got 22 people watching my live feed. How about that? That's big for me, man. I'm a small-time YouTuber. Just telling people. So you got any questions for me? Because this is a mind blower. It took me months once I first heard it to kind of really work it out. So I'm not expecting you to go, oh, okay, fine. Everything I've learned, rubbish. Took me a long time. As I say, I'm 50 years old. 3 years ago, I still believed what you believe. Now I don't believe anything. I try and know what I know, and that is that if I had to ask you to build me an Earth model, or you went to a miniature town like Legoland, for example, we know that their miniature harbour would be done on a level pool, would be done in a swimming pool. The whole of by train track system and there would be done on a level. If I wanted, one second.
You took a video of my girlfriend when she said no to being filmed.
No, I don't know. I don't know what you're.
You took a video when she said no.
No, I don't think so.
Huh?
I don't know.
Check your fucking phone.
It's on live stream right now, but no one's spoken to me about not being filmed. So you got the wrong. There's 3 of us here.
She's just fucking rang me.
Oh, okay.
You asked, one of you guys asked.
One of me, but it wasn't. Well, it wasn't me, and
she said no. Okay. And then you decided to film her anyway.
That wasn't me. That wasn't me.
Well, fucking ask one of them then.
I don't need to, and you don't need to swear, pal. It's not necessary. Okay. But you know what? Your council is filming you all the time. Did you know that?
Do I give a shit?
Well, no, I'm just telling you that they're filming you all the time. Now, we can stand here and film. That's actually our legal right. We're allowed to do that. Okay.
If people are allowed to be filmed.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not suggesting. I can't speak for this conversation.
So
okay.
Stream, you can turn that round.
I don't need to film you. Yeah. I don't need to
want
film
to
you.
be filmed.
No, I'm not filming you,
It's like
bro.
everyone's
But
fucking
you've come here
right.
in my face, so if you don't leave now, I will start filming you again.
You can try it, but I mean, that phone won't last long in your hand.
That's a
Your
little
choice.
threatening. That's a little threatening, son.
Huh?
I'm going to go back and talk to these people over here.
Threatening is you taking.
Now, I was telling you a little while ago that actually, if you wanted to build a miniature world, you would do it on a level. You would do it in a swimming pool. I'd say put some rocks in the swimming pool, put a magnet in the middle, and say that's your North Pole, and you could sail around that all day long. But if I asked you to build me a model of Earth and have water that went rivers, that stuff like that, flowed upstream, uphill, up a ball and stuff like that, you say you can't do that because you can't mimic gravity. And gravity only exists because the Earth is big enough, far too big for us to tell. So we're never able to establish gravity for ourselves. We have to believe maths says once it's too big for you to see, it'll start to do things that we can't. Now I tell people that that a swimming pool is level, the Olympic swimming pool is level, the water between the channel between England and France is level. We can measure that. We've taken lasers at 40 miles and measured that, and the Suez Canal is 100 miles in level. So if I'm asking you to model something and say, well, I've already got to 100 miles and still level, when does it start to curve? And if I put Suez back to back, I get to America. Where's the curve? According to the maths, it should be 1,000 miles downhill to America from here. When you get in a plane and fly to America, your plane will get to a level place and it'll stay level until it gets to the end and it wants to kind of come down. That's it. That's it. Water is the clue. I don't know how the world works beyond what I can see and experience. I can theorize about it, and I'm happy to say those are theories, but the idea that gravity is the go-to answer as to how water can cling to a ball when it's only a theory, unproven, and scientists, the best scientists say, we don't know what gravity really is. Neil deGrasse Tyson, Lawrence Krauss, they're all on YouTube saying that we don't really know what gravity is. Yes, we can drop an apple and say that's gravity, but that doesn't then mean you can kind of get water to conform to the underside of something when it gets big enough. No way. No, common sense says the water needs to be contained. So there's these 200 proofs that you can go watch by Eric Dubay, which is a good place to start. And so I watched that, I was like, shit, there's half of that I really don't know the answer to. And then there's a documentary, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. And when you unpick the fact that they're impossible to go to the moon, and they admit that they can't go back to the moon now, they don't have the technology, and there's these Van Allen radiation belts that they can't get out of. This is what they're saying today. They can't go past 1,000 miles because they don't have the technology to shield them from the dangerous radiation. I'm quoting NASA. It's like, how did you do it in the 1950s then? The Casio pocket calculator. They can't do it today.
So why would they lie?
To make you think that you're insignificant. Or all of us, not you, but all of us. Because the human race is one human race. But we're so divided, and we've never been more divided than we are now. Why? Because we think that we are evolved from monkeys, and the Darwinian mindset of dog eat dog and I must beat you in order to stay ahead. Then SatNav is all ground-based towers. In fact, as you will all know, is that the further the
satellites outside. That's why they call it satellites.
Really? That's clever, my friend. But let me tell you that 99% of all data traffic in the world, by their own admission, goes through sea cables. And the further you go away from the town cities, where there's a lot more of these 5G and 4G posts, the less accurate your sat-nav becomes. Absolutely. And the less good your signal is. Which is why in a place like Africa, for example, if all it was satellites flying around in the space, right? Why don't you Google satellites in space? Yeah, but have you heard of LoRaN? LoRaN was used for shipping industry in the 1950s, and they were using ground-based towers to triangulate the position. All we got today is more accurate because there's more towers around. But if you go into like Africa, ask yourself why they didn't, if it's just a satellite, put that up there, why aren't they getting satellite TV, satellite this, satellite that? No, they aren't getting that. And you know why they're going to get it now? Because Google Loom, have you heard of Google Loom? Google Loom is balloons. Google Loom is balloons with satellites on balloons. And they've always been putting satellites on balloons. So there are satellites in the sky. Pardon me?
Why we cannot see sun during night?
You're moving on from, let's deal with the satellite question. You can't keep just throwing, because you don't like what I'm saying. The truth is that if you go to Google and ask for images of satellites in space, the only ones you'll get is cartoons.
Why is the sun
Cartoons. Satellites do not exist in space. We've got video footage of them falling to the Earth. They're only on big balloons, helium balloons, that we see them launching these 5-10-ton satellites on balloons. They're not in space.
Why is the sun during night?
The sun is a small light, and light doesn't travel infinitely. You need to get that kind of stuff working in your head, realizing
Why we
it.
cannot see it during night?
Well, like I said, it's like taking a small lamp over a big space. It'll only illuminate half of the space at a time. Pardon me?
You would see it if it was flat.
Okay. Well, anyway, those are my ideas. And obviously, water is level. Satellites, you will not find satellites in space. There is no one foot of real footage of a satellite in space. They're all pictures. They're all cartoon CGIs. That's it. And all of our data is working off local towers. And the further you go away from town, oh, my signal's shit. If it was true that, you drive between here and Oxford or whatever, there should be no break in your service, no break. But actually, the further you go away from these towers, the ground towers, so the worse your signal becomes. It's not about satellites. And if it was, well, it's too difficult to actually, if you think about the dynamics of this Earth is meant to be spinning in 4 different directions at the same time. One rotating once a day, then 365 days around the year, so that's 65,000 miles an hour apparently. And then the sun is moving through the galaxy in the galloping past. This is all theoretical bunk that was invented in the 1930s and 1940s. So we all now live in a comic strip created reality. Well, I've told these folks here, these good folks here, that gravity is a theory. But however, what goes up must come down is a natural law of physics. That's a law of physics. So if I lift something up, if an apple tree grows and it lifts up an apple to this point, and then the join between the tree and gets too weak. Well, we know. So this is an important point. When we were 5 and 6 years old, the teacher said to us, "You're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. You can't feel it." And you go, "I can't feel that I'm spinning 1,000 miles an hour." But the teacher says, "Because you're so small and it's so big, you can't feel that." So shit, I can't trust my senses. Then the teacher says, "Actually, there's no up and down. You could be walking on the underside in Australia and you'd still think you were the right way up." So that really confuses the young mind. But I'm offering you now that at 50 years old, I realized just 3 years ago that all of that stuff was mind-bending me and made me very bad at school, because I realized, shit, this is, it doesn't make sense in reality. So I'm offering you this to think about, that there is only one up and only one down. And when you lift something up, this is up. Common sense says this is up, sir, and my feet are down. That's common sense. The ground is below me, and that's everywhere on Earth. No matter where I go, the ground is below me. There's only one down, and there's only one up. And we've only traveled 8 miles down. We drilled 8 miles down and maybe 100 miles up.
Okay, so when you drill down, what's the
Don't know. I don't make claims. You see, now your science, allow me. Your science, allow me to say this, that you, in your mind, because this is what I taught my 19-year-old daughter, is that down below my feet at 4,000 miles, there is a spinning, rotating iron molten core, creating a gravitational effect. I'm telling you what the mainstream science is, and you're certainly coming to me from the mainstream perspective. Now, if we've only drilled 8 miles down, how could we possibly know what's 4,000 miles beneath our feet? We don't know. So I'm just saying, let's stop at what we don't know. Now, we know what we can experience for ourselves, and I know I can go left, right, and a little bit up and a little bit down. That's the world we inhabit.
So what's at the edge? So if the earth is flat, you get to the edge.
That's what I'm going to ask.
All right. Well, let's go back to.
People have been all the way around the world, right? It's possible to travel either side. So your suggestion is when you get to the end, you just appear on the other side.
No, I'm not suggesting any of that. So let's not get too bogged down on my theories of how the world works. I don't know. I know that we're not allowed to travel infinitely far. There's a thing called the Antarctic Treaty that stops us from traveling, which is why apparently humans have never been under the ball. We've never flown under the ball. And when you ask me why doesn't something fall off the edge, well, I'd say that if it is a water world and it's 70% water, then it must have some kind of containment, because we know that water would simply flow off any edge, right? We know that. So why wouldn't water fall off your ball? Gravity is what you want to say to me. Because water won't fall off a ball because of what? Gravity. I don't know. I'd say water has to be contained. So I assume there's an edge, but I'm not allowed to go there. Yeah. I assume there could be an infinite plane of distance. I don't know. And please don't get lost in, the flat earthers say this. No, we're saying that water doesn't conform to the outside of any shape. Certainly not a spinning ball. And once you get that out of your head, you go, okay, let's look at the dynamics of water. Level. Take a bottle of water and do this at the beach. Turn it onto its side, and it will find a parallel line with the horizon. Every body of water is parallel. Now everyone says, the ships are going to go over that horizon. No, they're not. Take a powerful telescope and that ship will come back into your view. Try and measure that curvature. Will be impossible to measure the curvature. So we're saying water is always level as far as we can see. Now if I can see 10 miles and it's still level, and then I'll go to that 10 mile point and I can see another 10 miles and it's still level, or I'm in the cockpit of a plane and the plane's flying level and I can see 100 miles in front of me, and in 10 minutes I can see another 100 miles. I'm asking you, like the Suez Canal. When do you start believing that it's going to start curving? When every sense is saying it's still level, it's still level. And when science is measurable and you say, I can take a laser across the English Channel and go, it's super level, I say to you, then when is it bending? Where's the curvature?
Channel's not that large object.
But okay, so
right, so it's relative as well. It's all relative to your position.
What would
you
it
say when you can't see the horizon, you keep going 10 miles, you keep going 10 miles.
Yeah.
Right. So how far can you go?
Okay. Well, let me tell you that the trigonometry, the maths that were given by Pythagoras says that across the English Channel at 20 miles there should be 100 foot of water curvature. So if you stood in France, you should not be able to see any of the white cliffs of Dover. But in fact, you can see on a clear day, you can see the entire cliffs of Dover from France. Matter of fact. But that's meant to be under 100 meters of curvature, 100 foot, apologies, of curvature. So what is
assuming that both positions on either side at the same point to start with, right? So it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, you start on the beach at one side and you look over to the beach at the other side. There should be, by the Pythagorean maths, 100 feet of curving water, a bulge of water that's sort of interfering your view.
So the channel itself is a perfect curve. So the water being contained in the channel.
The surface of the water is perfectly flat.
On either side, they're exactly the same height. There's no difference in elevation.
Correct.
And that
You don't know that?
Yes, I'm asking you the question.
Yeah.
I'm asking you.
Okay.
So you're telling me that
Yeah.
they're perfectly even. You've got
Yeah.
that dip. Yeah?
Yep.
That's what you're saying?
Yep.
And there should be how much? Sorry?
100 feet. 100 feet. Yeah. Now here I've got on this here, I got the world record photo. It's acknowledged to be the world record photo. 400 kilometers or 270 miles. That should have 3 miles or 5 kilometers of curvature water. That's across a level plane of water. So English Channel, you're saying, well, it's not very far. Well, here's 400 kilometers, my friend. Still level. Like the Suez Canal, still level. What? So so even though you can see from one beach to another, you don't think that's level? What? Okay. Well, the water's level, though. I'm telling you, the water's level. You see. So I know it's hard to accept. Okay.
You said earlier about satellites, you only seen photos.
What?
You said earlier about how with satellites you've only seen photos. That's a photo.
That's a photo, yes. No, I said images. There's a difference between a photo and an image. Let me explain that an image is a rendering. It's not a real photograph. A photograph, for legal reasons, can only be called a photograph. It's like a camera. Someone's gone, snap, one shot, and NASA never give us that. But this is the world record photo. Okay, here's something that's a little closer to home. The Calais to Dover, all right? That's 24 miles and it should be 300 feet below of water. That's the maths that we're taught. Well, we're not taught this maths because if you knew this maths, when I looked at this maths 3 years ago, I was like, shit, there's no curve. There's no bending water. I know that. I've seen Morocco from Spain. I can see England from France. You know, these things are impossible on a ball the size that we live on. I know we've been told. Now you're making excuses. Like I said to you, we fired a laser across these things and found that there is no.
You can't just say that back. You're trying to convey a message here, right?
Yeah. Yes, but I don't, my friend. I do not have a lot of time for a meeting of the Ball Earth Society. You know, and what you're bringing me is the same science that I used to propone. But I'm telling you that science is just theory, like the virgin birth. It's just because of this and then because of that. And now people will bring me refraction and say, actually, it's because I can see this curvature. I say, no, that's refracting light or whatever. No, it's not refracting light. It is the curve. It's the water going down. And so that's why I say measure it. Go home, find a way of measuring it. That's why we're using lasers, because the Bedford level experiment, which was peer reviewed, showed that over 10 miles of the Bedford flats that there was no curvature. So that's 10 miles. The Suez is 10. Well, it's 8 inches per mile squared, so it'd be 8 times 10 times 10, which is 800 inches. 800 inches, and there's none.
So you were saying if I stood here, pretend this was the Bedfordshire Plain, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
And I look 10 miles in that direction.
Yes.
I shouldn't be able to see 10 miles flat because there would be 800 inches of elevation in front of me.
Well, it would be 400 in between you, I think, because half of that in between you, yeah. And that your person, if I stood here at the high point of the ball and you went 10 miles away from me, then we say on water, because obviously land can be undulating, we accept that. But over water, then, and which is why they use the Bedford levels, because it's a lock system, isn't it? And there's no locks in between that 10-mile stretch. So that guy should be at least 800 inches, or was it 6 foot or something, below the waterline. His whole boat and the man and the flag that he was carrying should have been invisible, but all of the man and his boat and so on were visible, meaning that there'd be no drop in height. Now we know, this is our common sense actually, is that water never drops in height. We know that across an Olympic swimming pool you could take a laser when it was still, you can make a mirror from a pond of water. That's because of its levelness, its flatness, its smoothness. And then people confuse the wavelets and so on as being, oh, then it's not that flat, it's not that smooth. Well, okay, waves and so on, but allow that a mirror in a still body of water is always going to find a mirror, a level playing field, and that when you expand that up to any size you like, you're always going to find that same thing, which is why I offer you the Suez Canal, because we can prove that that's level between those two oceans. So seas. So that's my contention for you. I know it's a lot to take on board, and it'll take a long time to unpick this. But check out that documentary on the moon, because funny thing about the way to the moon is a good way of kind of going, shit, this is classified, this is their own footage. I've seen Neil Armstrong moving in front of the camera and moving what looks like an earth shape in front of the window. I mean, these things aren't being faked. And if you think that people have gone to a lot of trouble to fake that they were faking it, then you're allowing for there to be some massive body that creates conspiracy theories to keep people their mind twisted. So no, you go and watch this stuff and you'll realize, shit, they never went to the moon.
Wouldn't it just be easy for them to just tell the truth rather than make lies for hundreds of years?
Yeah, I know.
Why would they want us to feel insignificant?
I think because that's the natural laws of physics.
So which law?
Buoyancy and density. What? No. Density is that if you're in a medium, we're in the air right now, but if we were in a swimming pool, our buoyancy relevant to the surrounding medium would change. Would you agree? So if I dropped an apple now, it would fall to the floor, and if there was a pool of water beneath me, it would just slightly go down the water and then pop back up again, right? That's because its density, the density of the surrounding environment had altered the buoyancy of that thing. So the apple has a very heavy buoyancy in the air and very little and a very high buoyancy once it gets into a thicker medium. And buoyancy and density, remember, gravity was a term invented by scientists. And these are the same theoretical scientists that Tesla said are going around in circles creating a reality that doesn't really exist. They're using maths to create a reality that doesn't exist.
So if the Earth is flat, I'm
hypothesizing. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
If the Earth is flat,
yes.
You would still need some form of force to keep everything down, right? Buoyancy and density alone doesn't necessarily. If that was the case, it would bounce back up, it would go into the water, it would reach a point where it's lost all its kinetic energy and its motion, and it would stop at that point in the water. It wouldn't necessarily come back up.
No, that's why I said both buoyancy and density, because it's the buoyancy that will mean that it will float back up. Now, if I was a helium balloon, what would happen? If I was a helium balloon, hold on, if I was a helium balloon, what would happen? Yeah, if I let the helium balloon go, is gravity going to pull it down? Or is it because it's less dense than the surrounding air? Therefore, it's going to be buoyant, right? And up it goes. And it'll go up to a point. All gases actually rise up to a point at which they reach their own level, right? And the gases settle to a point at which they reach their own level. And the deeper and deeper you go, the thicker the atmosphere becomes. And then we get into like proper water, right? And as you go down below the water becomes denser and denser and denser. And the creatures that live in that kind of environment, their bodies are altered relative to that higher pressure environment that they live in. So that's buoyancy and density, and these things were around long before people knew about this, long before gravity. And the gravity required a couple of important changes to science, and that one of them I like to remind people of is the ether, and that we know that there is an electrostatic ether that we live in. And then I suggest to people that if you look into the electromagnetic universe theory, that you'll realize that there is an attractive electromagnetic force between bodies which will account for certain kinds of attraction that we can actually measure in a lab. So I don't discount that things don't have an attractive force, but the primary actors on us are our density and buoyancy. So I'm more dense than the surrounding atmosphere. Thank you. Well, no, I mean, I don't see it as I don't see it as a force. You see, I don't feel like I'm being constantly pulled down. That's how I feel. I feel like there isn't a force that's dragging on the top of my head, Yeah, I mean, I'd need something that was lighter than air. Yeah, I'd need something that was lighter than air, or to counteract my natural density, yeah, or my natural lack of buoyancy in this environment. So if I strapped all those helium balloons that lady has there, perhaps enough of them, and I would start to kind of be less dense, or my total environment, like a hot air balloon, would be less dense, and it would start to rise. It's no problem. That's not gravity's out of the factor.
Did you say why they want us to do
No, I didn't get to that. Sorry, because your friend here asked me to go back to the buoyancy question. The why is very important to me. My friends here will tell you that there's more land. They're hiding land. They're making resources very hard to get. We don't think that the dinosaurs, for example, were real. We don't think that fossil fuel is a real thing. They think that the Earth creates its own oil, and that they make oil super expensive to just as another tax, another way of keeping us poor. But for me, there is a divine. I'm not a religious man. I was anti-religion my entire life. Even though I've read that the Earth in the Bible is flat, according to the Bible, right? I said that as a 12, 13-year-old kid. I could read that the Earth's children talk about a flat Earth. I mean, the Bible's talking about a flat Earth. So I say that actually we are the divine creator's creation, or we are the creators of this creation, and we brought ourselves here to have this divine experience. But for some reason, over the last few hundred years, or a few thousand years, some say, humanity has been sort of brought low by a control grid. I don't know what that control grid is. Some people say it's the Queen, Freemasons, the Vatican, the Jews, David Icke says the lizards. You know, I don't know. But I think that I know that actually I was intended to come here and have a divine experience, to learn who I am, learn about myself, not learn about David Beckham, not learn about Victoria Beckham shopping sprees or whatever materialism that we've been brought into. Not be a slave to somebody else's system. Not go and work in a call center. Not go and just be like a tax. And work and sit in front of the TV and watch soap operas all day long and eat junk food and then just sort of die unhealthy and unwell. And no. We're meant to have this divine, beautiful experience where women, men, all of us, black, white, whatever, that we were all one, and we're all enabled to have this incredible, wondrous experience of what this world really is. Now, none of us actually goes out into nature anymore and enjoys nature anymore. We spend all our time, not all of us, but we spend our time, watching the football and the cookery shows and going shopping and doing all these sort of superficial pursuits, rather than really getting to know who we really are and truly knowing ourselves and being at one with ourselves and so on. And the reason for that is because we've been given this Darwinian lie about us simply being here for a brief moment in time. Now, I'll share you something that I think you three will actually enjoy hearing, is that 3 years ago, I had an experience with DMT. Have you heard of DMT? Do you know what the pineal gland is? In the center of your brain, in the hippocampus, is a thing called the pineal gland. The ancient cultures knew all about it. The Vatican knows all about it, and they fluoridate your brain so that it's never open. But the pineal gland is your connection to the higher source. And there's a drug a plant called ayahuasca that the South Americans do as a ceremony to reach Mother Nature. I had this happen to me 3 years ago, and in the space of 5 minutes, I went from a total atheist. At 47 years old, I went from an atheist whose dying mother couldn't get him to take God or anything like that to realizing that we're all part of some electromagnetic system. I came back 5 minutes later and I was a new man, a changed man, because I had seen beyond the veil of this material world. Now, the people in charge, they know about this, and they don't want you to know about this, and they don't want you to know how divine and how important and how special that you truly are. So the reason I'm here is not so much that I want people necessarily to not know that they live on a ball or to find out that the earth is flat, but I want people to find their own true divinity. You'll never do that in front of the TV, you'll never do that watching the BBC, and you'll never do that like eating their McDonald's and spending your time in Mark's warehouse, Miss Selfridge, and all these other things. Yes, the system's corrupt. Yes, the banking system is absolutely corrupt. Yes, medicines are actually designed to keep you sick rather than to make you healthy.
So you're suggesting that the entire global government and scientists and everything are in a giant collusion to manipulate the general populace?
No.
yeah.
No. Let me. Okay. Yes. But the collusion suggests one. I'll say this, that I think that all governments are a franchise system. So you operate as a government under license from a central control. But do I think that all scientists, let me get to that, do I think that all scientists are in some sort of corrupt collusion? Of course not. These scientists, remember, went to the same schools that we went to. They had the same biology lessons, the same geography, the same science, and they were the kids that got A in class. They got the top marks in class, and they went on to university, and they did well at university, answered all the teachers correctly, right, and then they went and trained that to other people. Or they went to become chemists. And if, like, for example, aspartame, which is in freaking nearly everything that's diet these days, right? Aspartame is known to cause cancer. Do you think that the pharmacists who made that or the companies that are selling that, their agents know that? No, they don't. You don't tell the salesman that he's about to give some kid cancer. You say, no, like with cigarettes. No, it doesn't cause cancer. Don't worry about that. You go and sell your cigarettes, right? The doctors... Sure.
Otherwise, the cigarette companies, they could, governments could, if they really wanted to, mandate them and shut them down. So it's about profit. It's not about people given the conscious choice. Okay. Granted, with aspartame, it might not be. But with cigarettes, it's common knowledge now. You smoke, you probably can get lung cancer.
Okay. Now,
choice.
Well, not probably.
So,
I think it's unlikely. But
talk about the control. So, what the governments that are sort of a
franchise.
How does that work? So, what they who is that?
All right. I don't know for certain, but I'll say that you think about it like this: if this was a board game called Risk, you've heard of a board game called Risk, right? So if I was the banker or if I was the guy who got to draw the borders of the game, do you think that I would be quite important as the franchise holder? If I'm the one who goes around your town and draws up all the lines and says you can have a house there, you can have a house there, we can have a big house there, a small house there, am I not the guy who's the one who's going to say, okay, now if you want a house there, you're going to come and pay me license fees or taxes, or right? Yeah. So the British, remember, drew the lines in North America, North Africa. They created America. So maybe the British establishment hides the controllers, but perhaps it was Rome that never really died, but that subsumed itself into the British culture. And then, because you see, the only way you take someone over is to look like them. I could not go to Ghana or Kenya and take them over unless I had a few Kenyans to come and work with me, because the Kenyans would cut me up, right? But if I had a few Kenyans who looked Kenyan, spoke Kenyan, and did all of that, then they'd be my brothers. They would be the ones that I would sell the franchise to and say, yes, for $1 million a year, or if you do what I say when I say, you can run Kenya. Why? We've seen that in Saudi Arabia, right? The House of Saud, they were given Saudi Arabia by the British, right? Palestine was going to give them to the Palestinians, and they gave it away to the Israelis. The Balfour Agreement, right? So who's in charge? Who's running the border? Who's playing? Who controls the board? Well, I mean, if you think about what Mayor Amschel Rothschild said, he said, "Give me the power to create money, and I care not who you put in power." Because once you control the money, the printing of the money, you can buy almost anyone.
So the answer to the question is you don't know.
No, I don't claim to have special knowledge of that, but I know that there is a controlling system in play, and that the dynamics. I was in a war in a country called Angola in 1987. Prince Harry has a copy of my book. Matter of fact, you can buy my book on Amazon. I'm not trying to sell it. I only get about 50p for every copy that's sold. So I'm not really interested in selling my book, but I'm telling you that I went to war in the Cold War in 1987 against an enemy that I believed was the communists who were coming to take over my capitalist country, South Africa. That's what I believed. Why? Because that was the propaganda put in my newspaper, right? So in Angola, I've met Angolans who say, oh, the propaganda there was very different to the propaganda here. Now, I found out that the Russians and the Americans, because the Americans were on the ground, the CIA were on the ground where we were. So we saw the CIA on the ground. They had Stinger missiles, and they were giving them to the rebel forces, supporting rebel forces. Sound familiar with ISIS, by the way? Now, this is what they were doing in my lifetime and in my experience. And I thought that the communists were against the capitalists. But it turns out they were all meeting in a hotel room in Luanda, the Americans and the Cubans and the Russians. And they were talking about the plays that we were... Because once I published my book, people came and spoke to me about that. And they said, I know people who were in the same room with the Americans and the Russians. Right? So the Americans and the Russians pretend to have a war with each other. That's why the whole, they had to go to the moon, or they faked the moon landing because they were in the Cold War with the Russians. No, they're just creating the Pepsi-Coke dialectic. So you think you have a choice between Pepsi and Coke, but actually they're still the same poison. It's still owned by the same capitalists. And the same is true with the system of government. I mean, in this country, we have the Tories who were given to us by the royals. Remember, the first Conservative Party was given to us to the people, and then they got a second party a little while later. And now those two parties are really only operating under license. They have to operate under license. They go back to the Queen and say, "Can we be a government?" This is what we know. Oh, the Queen and the royals, that's all an anachronism and so on. It's not really real. I suggest to you that it is real. I used to think that it wasn't, and it was just some old culture thing. But actually, I think they have a lot more power. They may not be at the top of the pyramid, but they have a lot more power, and they're part of some control grid. Is there something benevolent behind it? I don't know, but I do see, for example, this is a great example, that chemotherapy is a huge killer of people with cancer. Chemotherapy kills more people than cancer itself, and cannabis cures a lot of cancers. Now, society knew this 100 years ago. We knew that cannabis could cure cancer. And in fact, the British government today... Cure. The medical industry doesn't use the word cure because they don't cure anything. They only treat. They want to keep you on their pills forever and a day. But cannabis is proven. There's plenty of people talking on YouTube about how cannabis extracts have cured their cancer. It may not only be cancer. You have cannabis. You have to improve your diet. It's not only that, because sugar and an acidosis in your body will cause cancers. For sure, we know that. Right? So you do need to clean your shit up. It's not just about going for the cannabis. But the point is that the British government is the largest exporter of medical cannabis in the world, according to the United Nations report 2016. The United Kingdom licenses the growing of 95 tons of cannabis per year. In Ipswich, they've got the biggest cannabis farm in Europe. Now, this is the same government that fucking banged me up 10 days ago for growing 5 plants in my garden. I use cannabis every day because I know it is good for my health. And I know that your great-great-grandparents used cannabis all the time because they knew it was good for your health, but the pharmaceutical industry got together in 1910 and found a way to start making this quackery. Any natural medicines are quackery now. And why? Because the petrochemical industry realized they could make these pills, they could make these opiates, they could get people hooked on their drugs, which is partly why Afghanistan is producing much more poppy now, since the Americans are looking after the poppy fields for us. They're producing 10 times more poppies than they ever did before the Afghan war. Why? Because the pharmaceutical industry depends on it, and we have got 50% of Americans and probably 30% of British people on some form of opiate today. The pharmaceutical industry is poisoning humanity faster than anything else. Cannabis has never killed a single human being and is outlawed by this government, who allows you to drink as much booze as you want, which kills millions every year. The pharmaceutical industry hides. In fact, in America, I'll go quite America. In fact, if you die from a pharmaceutical product, you are not allowed to sue the pharmaceutical industry. Why? Because they have got the government to write them a whole set of laws that exonerate them from any deaths and injuries that's sustained by the use of these drugs. So the real poisoners, the real drug dealers of the world, are your highly respected doctors and your highly respected pharmacists. Let me offer you this. That the word indoctrinated has hidden within it doctor. And if I was to doctor a financial report, what would I do? I would be altering it in my favor. So when someone becomes a doctor, I have altered their mind in my favor. So they go out, good human being, wants to do his best or her best for humankind, and goes and makes pills and medicines that actually end up killing people. This is a crime against humanity, and partly why I'm here to share this good news is to say that, shit, if you start kind of wake of this, I'm 50. Like I said, I'm 50, right? And I am fitter probably than I've ever been. Why? Because I know a lot of stuff about how I can avoid poisoning my mind. I want to offer you this distilled water. Look into distilling your own water. Distilled water is brilliant for cleaning out cataracts in the eyes, arthritis in the fingers, Alzheimer's in the brain. Skin. My 19-year-old daughter, who was like, oh, what's this distilled water? She gets pissed off. If I forget to bring her a gallon jug of water down to her university, she's like, where's my water? Her skin, she had spots on her skin, they've gone away. My eyesight has improved in the last 2 years since I've been using distilled water. I look younger, I'm healthier. There's so much evidence that distilled water, cannabis, raw food, sun gazing, there's so many things you can do to have a healthier, longer, fuller life. But your government would say, oh, put your sunglasses on, don't let the UVs in, put the sun cream on. And yet sun creams create cancer. Sun creams are known, they have products in them, parabens in them that create cancer, or aluminium that gets absorbed into your body and becomes the thing. Because we're an electrical system, the aluminium starts to cause the brain, through your deodorants, through your skin creams, through your sunblock. The reason why people get cancer in the sun is because our bodies have become so sugary Yeah, it's like if you took a sugary solution and put it out in the sun and let it dry out, it forms these crystals, right? Well, these crystals are forming in your body because your body is so sugary that it starts to form crystals that your body then fights against, and that is where a lot of cancers come from. So look into acidosis, keep your body in an alkaline state.
Hasn't average life expectancy increased over, say, the last 500 years?
According to history that we're given, yes, but I don't accept that history anymore. I think that in the last 200 years, probably we are living a bit longer, possibly, but I'm not convinced. And
what do you think has helped us to live longer? So what's caused the improvement?
Okay, well, when people say to me we're living longer, I say to them this. Firstly, most people who are living longer today are taking a handful of pills to stay alive. Secondly, if we weren't getting sicker, hear this out, my brother, because if we weren't getting sicker, we wouldn't have oncology wards for children. Children are getting that adults weren't getting cancer. When I was born, apparently in 1968, when I was born, 1 in 8,000 people were meant to get cancer. Today, 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 people are due to get cancer. Oh, my brother, look around you. You see so much sickness, so much obesity, so much mental illness. You know, I'm telling you that people, when they lived in natural, think about it. If you go to where people are living naturally, out in the field and stuff like that, those people are healthy. Those people are robust, man. What you see when you look around here, and I don't mean to be rude to anyone, but there's couch potatoes surfing around here, and they are barely able to tie their own shoelaces. You cannot tell me that humanity, when you look around, that the general humankind is well. Actually, when you go to Africa, where I come from, when you go to Africa and you see people who've not had diets infected by modernity, then those people are generally slim. You see those Africans, those same Africans, just 5 years, 10 years into coming to the Europe, they start filling out and start being susceptible to these cancers and other conditions. No, those are just excuses that we are better at diagnosing these things. My friend, I go around gravestones just looking because I'm interested in a few things historically, and I see plenty of people that have died 200 years ago at the age of 97 and that kind of thing. So no, I don't accept. I know that we've been held in a Middle Ages or a Dark Ages period where it has kept people down. And in South Africa, for example, when I grew up, Africans were only living 40, 50 years on average because the conditions for them were pretty, harsh in some cases. So no, I accept that, but I think that humankind, firstly, we used to be much bigger, we used to used much more of our brains, and we used to live for hundreds of years. And I'm not a Bible basher, but I think that when the Bible talks about people living 800 years, Noah lived for 700 or 800 years, other people were living 900 years. This was fairly normal. That when we were created, we were meant to be created. Allow me to finish.
Where do you get the proof from that? Because no one's around now.
Yes,
No
correct. So
There's no one wrote the Bible now. Yeah? So where do you get about what medical background do you have to keep saying about the cancer? Have you got a PhD?
one question at a time.
PhD?
One question at a time. I've got a thinking mind. One question at a time. Which question do you want me to answer first?
Easy question to that. Have you got a PhD?
No.
No. So how do you know about cancer?
As I said to these folks earlier on, that if I doctor a financial report, I've doctored it in my interest.
Language is quite fluid, so words
Sorry?
can sound similar but not mean the same thing.
Pythagoras
in
the Greek
Of
era
one
said
word
that
but not mean the same thing. So
Yeah.
you doctor
How are you
things.
disputing
I don't
that?
feel like that's
Okay, fine. Well, it's just something to take away. Something to take away. I mean, I can't prove that people once lived for a long time, but I can absolutely prove that cancer cures cannabis cures cancer. I can prove that. And if you don't yet know that, sir, you are remaining ignorant out of choice. It's time for you to wake up, my friend, because Earth is flat and your government is lying to you about everything. Cancer can be cured by cannabis.
Columbus fall off it. Pythagoras in the Greek era.
How do you know that? None of us are alive to know that. You told me I can't know things. You can't know things that happened before. Same applies to you.
So you're saying that Columbus fell off the edge of the earth?
There's a big difference between the Bible. There's a big difference between the Bible that's made from blokes living in fucking caves.
How do you know people lived in caves?
So you're believing that the earth is flat?
I don't believe anything.
Muslims, all their books were written in Jesus and Kings. Christianity was all built up of fucking bollocks.
Yeah.
So who built the pyramids?
2,000 years ago.
The cave people.
Greeks, this is where a lot of our
People that had understanding.
Yeah, we can't build the caves. We can't build the pyramids today. We can't build the pyramid today, can we? We can't build that. We can't build those things today, can we?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to do this. Okay. What? You building pyramids?
Fuck off, South Africa.
saying about people
I was born in England. You racist pig. There is water will conform to the outside of a spinning ball, and all the proof in the world that water will always find its own level. Water level is sea level, which is ocean level. These levels are all you need to know that this is a flat, unmoving, stationary plane. For quite some time. I hope you folks are having fun out there. Whoa, there's 30 of you, my lord. Thanks for coming down. Hey, Spark. Oddity! Yeah, jog. Nice to have you guys here. Hey. Alcohol. Alcohol is a neurotoxin. Your government wants you to drink alcohol so that your brain stays small. Hooray. Cannabis will open your mind and will clear your body of cancer. Do not believe your government. The biggest drug dealers in this country today are the doctors, the NHS, and the pharmaceutical giants who profit from your illness. Your government has been overtaxing you. It has been using banks like this to charge usury, unfair taxes on your time and your energy. Income tax was designed to pay for the rich man's wars, the bankers' wars, and now you give up 2 days of your week simply to pay their taxes, to pay their wars, to keep their military complex going, and to keep their system of control. Yes, system of control, because all governments are a franchise. All governments are owned by the same controlling entity, and all governments are designed to work together to keep you dumb, to keep you small, to make you think that you are an insignificant ant on a massive spinning ball. Brothers and sisters and my friends, we come to you today and we created this creation for you to have a loving, divine experience where you are at the top of the pyramid, where you are the capstone of the pyramid. Sometimes it's the homeless and the harder that find this hardest to deal with. It's funny thing is that, you know, the rich are, they're stuck in their rich, but the poorest are just as stuck in their kind of poor. It's an amazing, wonderful world that we live on, a beautiful world that we live on, but one where you have been minimized to think that you are simply a monkey. You are not a monkey. You are not an ape. You are the divine creator's spark. When the Creator created us, He did not create us as monkeys. He created us as beautiful human beings. Black, white, brown, female, male, all equal. I've seen you before. You're still struggling with this. It takes a while, my brother. It takes a while. It takes a while. It took me 3 months, and I had to look at this all the time.
How to explain evolution? If you don't believe in evolution,
yeah.
How to explain what is a fact?
Well, you know, I used to believe in evolution.
But how do you give it? You're telling me that evolution doesn't exist, and you explain to me.
No, you remember it's a theory, isn't it? Hold on. Do you know that evolution is a theory?
Let me finish, and then you can talk. That's fair, isn't it?
Yeah, I've heard your question. Your question, sir, is that how do I believe in evolution? I tell you what, I no longer have a belief. Do you believe in the virgin birth, sunshine? Do you believe in the virgin birth? I certainly don't. But 1.5 billion people believe in a virgin birth. Now, I'm telling you, your question is, do I believe in evolution? No, I do not. I do not believe in evolution. Why? There is a missing link, and there is no examples of speciation.
Okay, let me talk, and then you can answer my question.
Go ahead.
So, you're telling me that evolution doesn't exist, yeah?
Evolution's a theory is what I'm telling you. That's my answer. Evolution is a theory, like a theology. You answer your question. I answer your question.
Finish my question. How can you
Go ahead. What is? No, the flat water is not speculation. I can measure flat water everywhere, sunshine.
And then you can answer. You're telling me evolution doesn't exist. You're telling me it's a theory.
Yeah. Well, you don't think it is a theory?
Let me finish.
It is a theory, whether you like it or not.
And then how do you explain what they found where they got the same animal, but it's slightly changing every time they find it. Darwin's theory, you're right, but then you find the birds that have developed a longer beak or they've developed a shorter beak for what they need to do. Explain that.
Ah, yes, no, that's called species. No, well, yeah, I mean, minor changes in a bird or a beak. Okay. No, what we don't have when it comes to the human story is where the monkey becomes the half monkey.
You just told me the evolution doesn't exist.
No, I told you that evolution is a theory.
Explain to you how it's not a theory.
Well, no, you've given me the same evidence that I used to use as to cover up my belief.
How's that not
It's a belief. It's not evidence.
How is it here?
Science acknowledges there's a missing link in the evolution theory. That's it. That's where I'm at. There is a missing link, son. You should all know this. You've asked me your question. There is a missing link when it comes to evolution. Evolution is a theory. Gravity is a theory. And relativity is also a theory. Yes. You think it's a fact? You think it's a law? What's your name, son?
Why do you need to know my name?
Because you're a genius. This man here has proved that gravity is a law. He's the first man in human history to say that gravity is a law. Go and do your homework, son. You'll find out that gravity is still only a theory, unproven by all of science.
So what do you call it when you jump in the air and you come back down? Explain that.
I call that exercise, son. That is exercise, and you could do with a little yourself. Now go and look after your body. No, the dick is coming from you. Now, obviously, I am...
You told me gravity doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Explain to me why that occurs.
Buoyancy and density. And those things existed long before. Yes, you are more dense than the surrounding atmosphere. If you jumped into a pool, what would happen? Would gravity keep pulling you down? You'd float because you are less...
You float because you've got air in your lungs.
So you're more buoyant, right?
Yeah, because you've got air in your lungs and water.
Buoyancy. That's called buoyancy.
But what am I you honestly believe this?
No, I don't believe anything, son. You are the one who has the religious belief called gravity and evolution. Those are religious beliefs. What? See, when you have to rely.
Science.
No, it's an idea.
If you jump up, you fall down.
You know, you do go up and down. We know there's an up and down. No, because you're more dense than the surrounding atmosphere. Oh, hold on, I haven't moved on from gravity yet. So yeah, we haven't. You've got to understand that in theology, do you believe in a religion? Do you believe in no? Okay, but the people who push religion are called theologians, right? The people who push the kind of science that you talk about are theorists, scientific theorists like Krauss, Cox, and all these people, right? So you hear the word theory and theology, they're the same kind of word. So that's why I tell you to this, so you go home and think about this. This guy I met today says that my theories are like a religion, because it's a belief saying that if you leave something for long enough, or if you allow something to get big enough, it's going to do things that I can't see. And I can't measure, and I can't test. So the bones, I used to believe this, but the bones that say a fish becomes a rabbit, becomes a marsupial, becomes a man, becomes a monkey. Well, things came. Okay, I'm jumping up. Remember, your evolution theory comes out of the water, right?
Yes.
Right. So something that was
on the land, so the fish evolved to go onto land.
There's no proof of that. There's no proof of that.
You know about frog? It starts at a tadpole, because that's where it's nice and safe, and then grows.
Oh my gosh.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
You start as a tadpole too, bro. Do you know what a sperm is? It's a tadpole.
I know what's sperm is. I'm not fit.
Well, I'm just telling you that you don't start looking like this, do you?
Let me explain. Let me ask you another question. You told me that I stay on the ground because I'm denser than the air, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you said.
So grab some helium balloons and off you'll
So
go.
explain to me how a bird flies.
Well, I don't need to explain that, surely.
You can't tell me that you don't need to explain that. I've just asked you.
Do you boys know how a plane flies? Let me just check. Have you ever been on an aeroplane?
Yes, but is it
All right, so you know how a plane flies.
You just told me that I stay on the ground because I'm denser than that.
Yeah.
Is a bird denser than that?
Yes.
Is a plane denser than that?
A plane's denser than air, so how does the plane fly? You are asking me some dumb questions, son, because if you don't know how a plane flies, son, if you don't know how a bird flies, then I can't help you.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but you're struggling with the basics, if you don't know. Yeah, exactly. So what you're doing is you're creating.
You said I stay down because I'm denser.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you can alter your density by changing the environment. Well, you haven't. Come on. No, you need the whole. I'm not going to be your teacher, son. I need you to go home and do some of this research. I'm opening your eye to the possibility that you've been lied to. But I don't have. Listen. While you think, my friend, while you think that water can conform to the outside of a shape and that you can walk on the outside. Let me finish. Let me finish now.
Don't shout at me.
Well, you won't let me finish.
I'm not shouting at you.
Let him finish.
Listen, boys, let me tell you that you cannot walk. While you think that you're walking on the underside of a ball and that water conforms to the underside of that ball, you and I, while you think and believe in a etherical gravity, then you and I are never going to be able to have a good debate or a good discussion.
I've seen all of these pictures of the Earth being round. Yeah? I've seen them.
Yeah.
So can you show me?
It's nearly time for a smoke.
Can you show me a picture of the Earth as a flat?
When you say picture, do you mean photograph or image?
Either one.
Because there's not a single photograph of Earth from space.
Okay, so I have photographs.
I
have photographs like this. Yeah, like this.
That's not going to work.
Can you show me a photograph of the Earth being a flat line like this, like I can see it being a ball?
So let's establish that there is no photograph of Earth as a ball.
That's what I just said.
But there is no photograph.
Okay, no,
I'm not going to answer all of these questions because I can't give you that information, son.
I've seen all these photographs here, look, of the Earth as a circle, all of them. Can you show me a photograph of the Earth as a flat line?
But a circle is not a ball, you know that, hey?
No, I know that. I'm just going on what
Yeah.
you can see the
So,
Earth.
and you know that these are actually paintings.
Yeah, but then show me one where it's a flat line. Show me one where it's a flat line.
Well, when we take cameras up to as high as we can with a weather balloon, so we get to 20 miles, what we find is that everything around us looks flat, but you don't get the resolution to ever, which is why NASA, with all their money, right, have never got one single photo of Earth.
So you see that flat Earth map, yeah? That's been proved wrong several times, so why are you still representing it?
I'm not. I'm just saying that's just a model. Okay. So, well, it's a model, a possible model to get people thinking. Let me wait, son. Let me finish.
He's a kid. Don't shout at
Oh, so what about the respect as an older man? I'm talking to you. Oh, fuck you guys. Okay, has anybody else got some questions for me? I'm gonna take a little time out here. I think I need a little smoke break from the brats. Darling, I think you need to do some research and realize that you've been lied to. And this young man needs to know because he's still got a life ahead of you. Son, if you work this out when you're young, I'm 50 years old. When I worked this out, I was already 47. This is fantastic if you can.
I am a British Youth Council member. Okay?
Yep,
So
fantastic.
I know a lot of things.
Yep.
Do you know how orbit works? Where the world spins around, we orbit the sun.
How can you model that, son?
How can we model that?
Yeah.
Proven.
What's the model? What's model?
Right, okay, right. So, we don't like to do that.
That's all right. Then you'll have to walk away because I'm filming you.
Okay, alright. So, the sun is in the middle of our solar system and we orbit it, okay?
No.
If the Earth
No.
was flat,
No, son. I don't believe that. But carry on.
If the Earth was flat, okay, it'd take up half of our solar system already, okay? That's a proved fact, okay?
No.
It is.
No.
It is.
Why? How do you
Solar
prove that
system.
fact? How do you prove that
So
fact?
if we-
No, wait. Whoa. You've got this idea in your head about how the Earth may look. I'm just telling you. No. Hold on. I'm trying to dispel those ideas. I grew up with the ball in my mind, right? I'm just saying that hold on. With time and space, you're saying that if a ball gets big enough, then time and space will support that ball. That's what you believe, right? Right. So in my reality, if I threw something up, no matter how big it was going to come back down again onto the ground. If I take a body of water and I disturb it for a while and then let it settle, it's going to find a level. And guess what? That level will be horizontal with every other body of water on Earth. Now let me continue the border because this is where I'm at. I stick with water. I'm not going to tell you what the Earth is exactly like. I don't know. I certainly don't know what's underneath it. Humanity has only drilled 8 miles down. But water, listen to me, water was provably at the small scale, medium scale and large scale always level. That's why we call it water level and sea level and ocean level. Do you know that the Suez Canal,
Yeah, dude. Listen, I've done halo jumps, high altitude, low opening jumps. I have literally physically seen the world's curve.
what height have you done that from?
Okay, right, the reason.
Around 25,000 feet.
Okay, because the science says that you have to be at 60,000 feet to see curvature. You can't see it from the front. Pilots will tell you that at 30,000 feet you cannot see curvature.
You're not going to win, but honestly, you just
No, I just need to make the point because you know what? I don't have time for a meeting of the Ball Earth Society. You know, you guys have had your minds bended by that. That's fine. I'm just here to tell you that water's always level if you can't see that. What? NASA is a corrupt organization, almost like the Vatican.
ESA.
Do you believe in the virgin birth?
Yes.
You believe in the virgin birth?
Because I'm heavily Catholic, so if you're
Oh my God.
about my religion.
All right. So did you know that the Big Bang was given to us by the Catholic Church?
Well, no, okay, so what I
Did you know that? I'm asking you a question. Did you know that the Big Bang is an invention of the Catholic Church?
No.
I know, isn't that funny? That the Vatican is one of the major corruptors of the entire world. That the Vatican has gone around killing and on killing humanity for centuries.
What you're doing now is hate crime, which is a so we
Hate
can
crime?
easily report you to the police now.
Please
You're
do,
talking about
please do,
someone's
son.
religion.
What?
You're taking
Religion?
about someone's
Listen. So you believe Muhammad was the final preacher? Do you believe that?
Yeah.
So you
believe in
think?
religion.
So you think that Islam is telling the truth when it says that Jesus is not the Son of God?
No, I believe Jesus is.
All right, so then you can't agree with Islam. That's a billion people who say that you're wrong. Yeah. So, son, let me tell you that if it's a hate crime to say that the Vatican wrote the Quran and that the Jews have given us your religion and that the Vatican is behind so many wars and killings in this world, they're a despicable, disgusting, homosexual organization. And the sooner you leave them, the better you will be. I used to be a Christian, and in the Bible, when I was 13 years old, about your age, I told the preacher that the earth is flat. The earth is flat in the Bible.
And you are wrong. No, wait.
There's hundreds of lines in the Bible, verses in the Bible that says the earth is flat. Hundreds.
You can do what you want about flat Earth and stuff.
Oh, thank you very much for the permission. Please don't call the police on me, son. A little annoying to realize. Yes, religion is a form of belief and indoctrination that because you're one of 2 billion on this earth that apparently believes in this thing makes you right. What about the other, son? You know why we're at war with the rest of the world? Do you know what we're at war with the rest of the world is? Because everybody thinks their religion is right. Your religion is wrong. It is a form of mind control, son.
For 3 years now, mate.
Wow, man.
Right?
Wow.
I can see more of Britain than you do.
Let's just say 35,000 feet, as I said, that is the curvature of the earth.
With the fisheye lens. Is that a fisheye lens, sunshine? Is that a fisheye lens?
Is that a fisheye lens?
Because a fisheye lens will give you a curving earth from 100 feet.
No, I'm there.
We've taken cameras up to 20 miles, son, 5 times higher than you've been, right? And the earth is provably level. The first man who went up to 10 miles was a guy called Auguste Piccard, and when he got up to 10 miles, he said the earth is flat with upturned edges. No matter how high you go, the horizon will always rise to eye level. Oh, you're a disgrace, son. You're the Council of Britain. You're the most indoctrinated minds in the entire country. The greatest egos are the most often the most educated egos.
You haven't got high notes for clamming this.
I think it's time I had a little smoke break. Hey, Zane. Training, running, everything. Yeah, I was getting a little bit annoyed there, to be honest. So it's probably time I had a little smoke break. I've been running this for 100 minutes? Shit. And there's 36 people. That's my world record. People sitting and watching this. That's really, really cool. Shut up! How's that possible? Water always conforms to the outside of a ball. We know that all the time. Your government is poisoning you. Your government is lying to you. Your government is corrupting every aspect of your life to hold you down, to keep you dumb, to make you sick. And there's a young lady right there using a walking stick. Why is she so sick at such a young age? This is the insanity of the world we live in, and people are happy with it. People are happy with it. Why? And another day in paradise. I can start to tell immediately the people who are going to find this hard to hear and be angry. Any thoughts, sir? Cheers. A hate crime. Did you hear that earlier on, that little boy telling me that it's a hate crime to say that his religion is a disgusting stain on humanity? It's a religion. It's not a people. But people are so identified by their religion, by their indoctrination, by the systems around them that make them feel how they are. Look at this. I see so many people in in prams. You got the child in the pram and the grandmother in the pram. And you see that, I mean, you know, the scooter business is just doing a roaring trade because increasingly more and more people are unable to bear their own weight. They're so unhealthy. They're so out of shape. And they just want to carry on eating their shit food and watching their shit entertainment, poisoning their minds, poisoning their bodies. I guess what's sometimes a little bit tough when you're out on the front line, right? As much as I want to come at this with love, sometimes you just get a little bit kind of wound up by the arrogance of the people who are, look at this man here. He'd probably tell me to fuck off. Thanks, brother. Thank you so much. Have a super day, man. That smacked me right in the face. Fucking hell, I need to show my embarrassment because that guy just made me look like a complete tool. Much respect to him. You know, we do get so much abuse. So sometimes I get it wrong. Don't always judge a book by its cover. I think that should be the message to one and all. It's pretty cold out here today, I have to say, but I am enjoying the occasion. There's the old community support officer. Yeah, ready to issue us a ticket if we do anything out of order. Behave yourselves. Behave yourselves. Madam, I'm here to tell you that the earth is provably flat. We cannot live on a spinning ball. Have you come across this theory before? Okay, so when we were children, we were told that the earth water's, even though water's level and flat, eventually if a ball gets big enough, the water will start to just flow around it, as we believe on a spinning ball. I believe that for 47 years. It turns out that water's never been able to measure the Earth's spinning or even curvature. So with that in mind, it's just those 2 or 3 key points. You can start to unpick the entire heliocentric idea of going around the sun. We now see that the sun is actually small, local, and going over our heads every day along with the stars and the moon. That the earth was perhaps created for us, for you to have a divine experience, and that we've been lied to and poisoned and cheated out of our birthright, if you like, by a corrupt system of control. But here saying if you start with this idea that you're actually playing on a level playing field and not on a spinning ball, it might open your mind up to the possibility of what else is you, what else you are and who else you are and why you're meant to be far more important. I say to people, you're meant to be the capstone of the pyramid, not at the bottom of the pyramid, which is where most of us people are today. So that's my thesis. I have a YouTube channel called Trinity 4, and I'm just going around the country with my friend to try and advise people of this information so that they go home and start to unpick the brainwash for themselves.
Okay, fair enough. So do you have a website?
Yeah, I do. Let me get you a flyer, and then you sound like someone who's very interested, so I'm really pleased to meet you. Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, it takes a little while, but after you've sort of thought about it, it was like a lot of the maths doesn't make sense, and the and the sort of theories that I used to believe in, the theory of relativity and gravity and evolution and so on, they start to look like just like a religion. So.
Okay. Well, they are just theories at the end of the day. So.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and so if we know the dynamics of water is always going to find its level, and the Suez Canal is 100 miles in level, then if you took 10 Suez Canals, you could get to America on a level body of water. That makes a lot of sense to me. So that's what I know, is that the water is level, and we're 70%, apparently 70% of us is water. So most of the water must be level, and then you've got these rocky land masses around, scattered around here and there.
That's quite interesting, actually.
Super. Can I ask your name, just out of interest, because you sound like a really interesting lady?
Yeah, my name's Gemma.
Thanks, Gemma. It looks like children there and stuff, and if I've just had a new baby, I've got a 19-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son, thank you. My 18-month-old baby was a baby that my wife and I decided to have, knowing what we know now in the last few years. We know vaccines, we try and stay away from a lot of the junk food and stuff like that. You know, my baby hasn't had any, of course. But knowing these things has empowered us to be better parents. And so I would offer this to you as a way of being a better mum in the fullness of time. All right. Geraldine, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, Gemma.
Gemma, sorry.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you,
Yeah,
Gemma.
you too.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. Hey, you see, it's not all angry and aggro. I can be pretty. I can be pretty pleasant. In if, people aren't being. People are being willing to hear and listen and learn. I am a little bit contentious at times, and it is a case of sometimes not being willing to put up with people's crap. So, this is a hard case. I've dealt with him already.
So how's it
Not with this one. He seems alright.
This man has excellent
Questions?
No, excellent discussing techniques. He's very respectful.
Okay.
He's very open-minded.
Unlike that little youngster over there.
Agree with that.
Yeah, that's all right.
Very reasonable.
Took me months to kind of go shit. Yeah, okay.
I mean, please don't get the wrong idea. I'm not going on shit. I mean, it's not. It's all lies, isn't it? I mean, there's no one lie. It's a lot more complicated, and it's not just if they've lied about this, what else they've lied about. It's a whole rabbit hole, and they don't even. I'm just trying to read the board and like.
Cool, Ruth. Well, I'm going to leave you to it, and make sure you take a flyer. And I mean, this is the bit. We don't intend to convert or divert people. This is just that. Yeah. And this is just that starting point, that kind of ground zero to go shit. Maybe the source of information, because at 47 3 years ago I'd been chewing the BBC and all the documentary channels and everything I could get my hands on, thinking I had a bead on what was really going on in the world. And then I came across 9/11, wasn't the Muslims and stuff like that, and that started to unravel everything for me. And then the moon landings, the documentary, a funny thing happened on the way to the moon, these things like shit.
It's that rabbit hole. Once you discover that, well, hold on, what if this isn't true? Where is the lie? If they've lied about something like 9/11, for example, what else would you lie about? If you're willing to lie about an atrocity like that, where is the lie?
Yes, the extent, or even not even lie about it, but carry out an atrocity that's going to kill people, that is going to.
We're humans. We do horrible stuff.
No, we do, but we're almost. You see, we've been brought into this Darwinian sort of mindset, I think, because I think that once upon a time, maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago, humans were far more benevolent and generous to one another, and they understood nature and they were at one with nature. Now we've become increasingly in the last few hundred years more sort of dog-eat-dog, capitalist, climb upon each other. So we've got a few rich people and many poor people struggling at the bottom, and a government system that taxes, and a medical system that seems to poison, and do very little to cure. And I've talked about on the issue of cannabis, like how we've known always that cannabis is a medicine, but intentionally they've held that away from us so as to profit. So
don't get me wrong, I love a zoo. I smoke way more weed than I would want to admit to. I probably go for about 2 ounces of weed myself
a month.
Yeah. So that's a good thought about just over £500, give or take. I think I have a fairly informed opinion on it. It's not good for me.
You don't think so?
No,
I used to think so. I'm 50, right, and I've smoked it for 30 years. I'm a published author, and my brain has never been sharper. And I don't smoke it so that I can't get off the couch or sofa. But I do use it as a medicine to help my PTSD. I was in a war in 1987 in a country called Angola. So for me, it's a really beneficial plant to use. But for other members of my family, as raw, as a nutrient, as a form of supplement, a form of food.
Are you talking about marijuana or hemp there?
No, I'm talking about marijuana. I'm talking about cannabis, actually. I actually had my plants stolen from me by the police just 10 days ago. They came into my house, raided my house, took my plants. I only grow for myself. They found no scales, no buds.
As much as I say the brick yourself, you have to understand that they can take that as you could be lying, the same way they could be lying.
Do you know that the government licenses the growing of 95 tons of cannabis every year in this country, and the UK and the exporter of legal in the world. Yeah, that's an official report.
The minister is licensed to her husband to cover this experiment.
No, of course, but I mean, as
you go ahead.
we might be the biggest exporter, but that wouldn't imply that we're the biggest consumer or the biggest grower. Because if America produces more, it's consumed in America, they're not to market.
But here's let's not get into the numbers so much as how can a government, one second, how can a government justify jailing someone for growing a couple of plants in their garden while licensing, well,
use
blasphemy, but they're pissing on us and telling us it's
Yeah.
raining.
Yes. And so they've known this because when they started to criminalize it 80 or so years ago, they did that knowing that they were creating an opening for the petrochemical industry to fill. They wanted to get people away from natural medicine and put them onto petrochemicals and opiates. Now we're more addicted to opiates and that kind of drug than we've ever been. And the Afghan war was partly about enabling that the poppy fields to keep flowing, and the American soldiers keep those poppies coming.
But I would argue that as much heroin or opium or poppy seed as you could produce in Afghanistan, you could produce far more in America with half the cost.
Thanks, bro.
The cost of the war. When you think, do you know how many million it keeps to keep a jet fully armed and ready to drop bombs on people for a day?
Who pays for that?
Taxpayers.
So we've already agreed that the government is about taxing you to death, right?
Yeah.
So why would it care that if it was going to war and giving its buddy who owns the war machines, and then once we're at war, we create instability, we create fear, and with fear, you garner control. So this is all about, you see, I see it like this.
Garner control, I would say if you look at Afghanistan and Iraq and how that has gone, it's not, there isn't control, there's terror.
Yes, terror is great for control.
No, control and terror are different. Terror is a fear of doing something. Control is doing something you have to. Fear is doing something because it's potential. I would say.
Have you looked into the 9/11?
No.
Okay. So before I'd looked into the 9/11 event, I didn't realize the extent to which the government, the lengths they go to have a false flag event to create a situation that would enable them to carry out certain despotic. Absolutely. So.
Euromaidan.
Sorry.
Euromaidan. The revolution in Ukraine that happened shortly before the Civil War.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was supposedly people who were unhappy with the government and how that went. And then look how that's gone from people just happy with someone basically didn't want to change a law and to now the country's being ran by an entirely different. Well, it's not even being ran by anyone. It's being invaded by a first world country. How often do you see that on the news?
No.
I would think with the open mind you've got and the knowledge you've got, I would have thought that would have been an event or something that gets more attention, but it doesn't because it's all control and it's all falsified. Everything.
Yes. So we're saying that there's no limits. You see, there are no limits to what the government will do to maintain this sort of franchise going. I call it a board game called Risk. Yeah, and it's that game that they're playing with us as the sort of captors or us as the fodder that they use our energy to create the weapons, to create the churn and so on. Yeah, and all wars. In fact, the Napoleonic Wars were funded by the bankers who then wanted their money back, and so they invented taxes, didn't they? They started. I think it was the First World War. No. You'll find out that income tax was meant to come in for 1 year.
That doesn't help any of us. As much as we can.
All right.
I think for this discussion to go forward in an enlightening way for us both, we have to we can't pick and choose examples because I've been emergency taxed, mate, and it sucks when you're young. I live with my girlfriend. It's hard out here. The world is a tough place. I'm sure you understand that. And my concerns are much less far-reaching than if I'm being lied to by the government. It's more I've paid rent, I've bought stuff, I'm good for the month. That's my concern. That's my worry.
That's exactly what the government wants. They want you to be so busy and so concerned about just paying the rent that you go, I don't have time to think about these other things. I'm on the treadmill. I've got to go to work 5 days a week. I'm exhausted at the weekend and so on. Well, let me tell you that the government created that rat race for you. The government created the situation of banking, that housing, and they didn't allow for the building of housing such that it costs so much money now that I pay in 2 months rent in the house I live in London. My dad paid less than that to buy his first house in England. So, okay, wait. You're trying to make excuses for the system. I'm finding that difficult to reconcile because either you realize that the system is corrupted and designed to make it harder and harder and harder to get by. You're never ever, none of us are ever designed to get to a place where we can kick our shoes off and go to work once a week, 1 day a week. In a fair human society, we would have 1 or 2 days a week. We would be our contribution towards our society. We'd be recompensed for that. We'd have a home. We wouldn't have to fight our entire lives and beg the bank to allow us to stay in our homes if we can't afford to pay it. We should all be entitled to shelter and food as a bare minimum. And now the government, what they do is they'll say, all right, well, if you're really hard up, we'll give you £50 a week and we'll help you with a really shitty home in a fucking shitty neighborhood and all this sort of stuff.
I've got bare concrete floors in my living room. I've got holes out underneath the doors. I've got no blinds in my living room. I live in social housing.
And people tell me we're more civilized than we've ever been. And I say no. People have become, we're living in more and more squalor. There's more and more homelessness. There's more and more mental illness. There is 50% in America or more people are addicted to opiates. You know, are we getting healthier? No. Look around the streets here, man. We are getting fatter, sicker, dying of, we get more illnesses. We need more pills. The pharmaceutical companies have never done better. People have never been unhappier. And they take their sense of feeling good or bad as to whether or not Manchester United or the Swindon local football team does really well or really bad, or whether, you know, Coronation Street tonight is going to give them a happy ending. This is where people are getting their reality from. Or X Factor. Yeah, I can't wait for X Factor. Bollocks. You are the X Factor. You are meant to be the pinnacle of this. You should not be fighting your entire life to work, and then die and so on and you know, enjoy some sort of stale retirement. No.
As much as I understand that, and I completely agree with you on that, and we're all fucked. There is no way anyone under 20 is going to be able to find their own house or have those options available to them. But that's where we are.
Because we are, my brother, because we are where we are because we've been held back. The truth about who we are, what we are, and how this all works, and the truth about the banking system, how it's a corruption that actually uses your own credit that you're entitled to and then charges you for lending you that your own money. That's really what the bank do. They don't go down to the vault and get £100,000. It's money. Exactly. So you know this. And then they make you poor just by numbers. And who gets rich? The bankers. So stop arguing for them.
And that's the thing. I think accepting the reality and saying, okay, I can't change the banks, and I can't change this, and I can't change
that's because you think you live on a spinning ball and there's asteroids.
And that makes his life 1,000 times better. That to me is something I can do.
Okay, that's fair enough. I like that.
I can't change this. I can't. I mean, you know, you can be happy every day of the week, mate. And as much as I respect what you're doing, because I can tell it's coming from a good place, and I can tell you care about these people, whether you know them or not. It's still people who are suffering because of the system we're in. But we are in it, and we don't make it better for ourselves. Look, I've seen
because we don't know how. We're asking the same people who corrupted the system, like Theresa May or whoever. We go to them and we beg them to do something differently, and they pretend to shift the deck chairs around on the Titanic a little bit here and a little bit there, and nothing. In fact, what changes is it gets harder and harder to keep your head above water. You know, the youngs that are coming in today, most of them are going to look forward to a job in a call center or some other sort of in the system. Don't think for yourself. You do this little part of the supply chain. That's all you are. You wear the corp colors and you go to work 9 to 5 and you'll get a half. You might get a pension if you're lucky, and then you get 15 years of sort of knackeredness of and that I used to think there was nothing I can do about that. But when I realized that actually, wow, the whole world is different. No, well, I've stopped paying tax. My new baby boy doesn't have a birth certificate. I've told the state to fuck off. They're not getting a birth certificate. He has a passport now. He's 18 months old. No birth certificate. The officials came to me and said, you have to. No, I wrote them the letters. I explained why. They've gone away. The officials came and said, you have to be on the electoral roll. We charge you £1,000. I explained why. They've gone away. The police, they came. They stole my plants. I said, all I'm doing is growing it here. You can look at this. All they did was write me a community order, an unofficial little thing that says, you know, we're going to destroy your plants. I could have just as well smoked a joint in the street. I would have got just as much trouble for that because they can't really do anything about us. We are meant to be the sovereign divine entity at the top of the pyramid. We've given that sovereignty away to the Queen, and we then say these institutions of state, which are meant to be created by man, are now above man. You know, we all are in fear of the state authorities telling us what to do. And that is almost like the Nazi idea on steroids. You know, we're in some sort of socialist, communist kind of thing with a capitalist flavor. That's what I see. And I see us I don't see the trajectory getting better for humanity. In my 50 years, I came through the Cold War, as I said to you earlier on. I actually fought in it. And now I thought that humanity, once the Cold War was over, was going to get richer, better. And the only people that are getting richer are the same people who are running all the big corporations.
That isn't the first war that's been fought by people over nothing, over numbers, over money, over things that you can't possess.
When you say people, or do you mean organized? Because we're not the people we're not the Kremlin, are we? We're not the parliament. It's those people that are creating the war conditions.
People, they are the man. They are the people who sit in the cabinet and make these choices and decide this. They are the people in this context.
And they're in bed with the royals and the banking people and so on. Because when the royals realized that they couldn't stay as royals and we were serfs, they came up with this banking system They came up with a banking system that they sought to keep people enslaved, keep them working, keep them so on. And you've got to ask, oh, why? Is it simply because they're greedy? No, I don't think it's simply because they're greedy. I think actually because we have some special place here, and we're meant to realize that specialness. And I'm not suggesting that a person, once they realize that, can leave their call center job. I'm not suggesting that, but it does empower you to start being richer in knowing your place. And so when the police came to my house and tried to break down my door, I told them that I do not accept their authority. Now they forced their way in and handcuffed me anyway, but I'm willing to tell them that to their face, that I do not stand under their authority anymore. I've recently had like speeding fines, and I write back to them and say, listen, I do not have to pay these fines because I was just traveling.
But if you are traveling in a way that is unsafe, do you not think it's fair that you can punish for potentially putting someone else at risk?
Potentially?
Yeah.
No. But you know why? Because there is one key tenet of natural law, and that is to do no harm. So potential harm and harm. So if I was to swing my fist towards you, but kind of miss you, you could say, listen, you tried to hurt me, and I would accept that, right? But if I was traveling at 55 miles an hour through a tunnel instead of 50 miles an hour, who am I hurting?
But the thing is, as much as in that example, that works fine in that situation.
That's the situation I'm talking about. If I'd gone into someone's home or hurt somebody or something like that, I'd more than happily accept the police would need to come around, interview me, and understand what went on. And if I'd done something like that, and they said, all right, well, our penal code said you have to pay £500 or do a day in jail or whatever, okay, I might have to do that. But I'm at pains never to do that, because that's not the kind of harm that I want to do.
Say you were doing 50 round the corner and it was 45.
Yeah.
You were speeding. And you then might have coming and there might not. Do you then accept that if you are potentially endangering someone because you don't have you cannot know what is around the corner in that situation? Do you think it's fair that you pay a fine then? No, because you know why? It's not. You see, okay, there's reckless driving and causing endangerment, and I wouldn't want to get too specific on this, but if someone's traveling on a road we know that most of our cars and most of our roads are actually underrated. If there's not a lot of traffic and there's not a lot of people, if there were people crossing the road in front of me and I'm barreling through at 50 miles an hour, and someone gets hurt, shit, that's a problem, right? And I have to account for that. But if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm doing 50 along a road that says 40 and there's no other traffic in the road and no one else is a danger, then I feel like I'm pretty cool about that. If I see a cyclist up ahead, I slow down. No, I completely agree.
So that's and then the problem is now we are giving away too much permission and power to a sleeping policeman. A robot sitting on the side of the road is now going to determine that because I was 3 miles over the limit, or